Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here,
And Blue Dragon 5.
and welcome to the show where we wax poetic about the movies that we see on a month to month basis. It's time to crack open our
Movie
Memoirs.
Memoirs! Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. All right, Dragon. So yeah, February. It's interesting that we're doing this when it is. So because Dune just came out, and Dragon, that's all that anyone involved in the film community can talk about. It's glorious. I don't want to get into it. But oh my God. Okay. But yeah, Dragon, how was your month for movies?
It's a little touch and go.
Touch and go. All right, that's fair enough. Yeah, same with the theatrical stuff. That's why I kind of bring up Dune, because it's just funny how big of an event Dune was when, this month it was like, oh, Lisa Frankenstein. That was fun. Anyways, let's not delay things any further, Dragon. Let's get into the news. And of course, we always start on what?
Can we do a little Valentine's Day kind of cut a little red or pink or something here?
You wanted to? Yeah, sure. I was just kind of like, I always try and just match the colors on the poster, but
no, I know. It's just there you go, something.
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Dragon, we have to start things out on a somber note, really somber note. The late great Richard Lewis, man. This was a knife to the heart. Did you see what Larry David specifically tweeted about it?
Well, he mentioned how he was born 3 days after Richard Lewis, and they were friends and everything. So
well, the thing I wanted to specifically bring up, the quote that I wanted to bring up from Larry David was, "Tonight, Richard Lewis broke my heart and made me sob, and I'll never forgive him for that."
It's a good, right? That was great.
Yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, I mostly just know him from Curb. I'm not sure how much he popped up in movies. I know he was obviously big in the stand-up game in the 80s. But yeah, just his presence on Curb, just like you said, he literally was like very much like a non-biological brother to Larry David throughout his life. And I feel like that really did get captured beautifully in Curb throughout the years. There's still a lot of Curb. I haven't seen roughly half of Curb. So I'm really
excited. The thing you have to watch next, you have to watch season 5 of Curb next.
Season 5. Okay, duly noted. All right. So yeah, what say you on this, Dragon? Definitely a tough one, especially because we're right in the middle of recapping Curb season 12.
Yeah, so Richard Lewis, one of the all-time great comedians. Again, he's childhood friends with Larry David. Childhood friends in quotes, because they kind of hated each other at camp, and then they kind of reconnected on the comedy clubs, and they kind of realized, like, oh my God, I know you. I hated you in camp, and they kind of befriended each other over that. But again, that sums up their friendship so perfectly. Anyway, so Richard Lewis, you kind of can glean through Curb. His whole thing was that he was like one of the definitive. He was very much. I mean, this is going to sound. If I were to equate him in the great holes of comedy, he was kind of the I don't know if edgier is the right word, but he was the moodier version of. God, sorry. He's kind of the moodier version of Lenny Bruce.
Yeah, I could see that.
He's got he's always had kind of like a Lenny Bruce swagger to him. But
sure.
The fact is, like, the only thing Richard Lewis kind of takes it darker than Lenny Bruce. That's the difference. So the fact is, like, this guy was like imagine if you took Lenny Bruce and mixed him with a little bit of like Larry David. That's essentially what you get with Richard Lewis. Where he was like the depressed, neurotic comedian. Before you had a Seinfeld, you had. You had like, as in like, he wears depression on his sleeve and he's neurotic as all get out.
Right.
And his delivery was always on point. Like he always had like these great one-liners in Curb that were just very naturalistic. And again, majority of Curb is improvised. Again, like you have like an outline for here are the beats we need to hit plot-wise. And
When I think of him in Curb, the big delivery that I always think of that I've brought, he did it like not this past episode, this week's episode, but the last episode he was in with Curb, where it was like, "This is a low for you, man. This is a low for you." That's it. We're done.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so he Richard Lewis had a very interesting life where he had a lot of punishment. Man, he was addicted to drugs and alcohol, especially alcoholism, which is a running gag in Curb. He always brings up, "I'm a recovering alcoholic." So he always just kind of milks it in a really funny way. He's worked it into his stand-up for sure. As I'm saying, he had a lot of health issues. That's the thing. So if you notice, there is probably a progression in Curb where, he. It never really dawned on me that it was. I didn't know it was getting worse. Season 5 of Curb. The reason I recommend it is it's a Richard Lewis season. Essentially, the premise of that season, Richard Lewis needs a kidney.
Oh, right. I've heard of that. Yeah.
Now, I don't know in real life if he ever needed a kidney. I think that was just for comedy purposes for the show. But again, it's based on the fact that Richard Lewis has had a lot of like surgeries and stuff. And towards the end, apparently, it had been getting worse and worse. That's why Richard Lewis pretty much shows up at least once at a minimum every season of Curb, except one season where he was so ill he could not show up. I want to say it was either 10 or 11. He did show up, and then they put him back.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but yeah, he there was like word they might have been developing Parkinson's towards the end too. It was horrible. He was being put through the ringer. So it is so trippy, that his appearances in Curb this season, it's more than one, which shocked me because just the fact he's talking about wills and everything is there's something kind of
it's a running gag now.
Yeah, it feels fitting though, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like it feels like again, like he and Larry David's getting into the rhythms, and we'll get into it when we get to this week's recap. But there's a really nice. I think on some level, Larry David, just looking at Richard Lewis, again, Larry David having just kind of that straightforward, he can tell that, Richard Lewis is somewhat on the decline. And I'm sure in the writing of the whole will thing, it's just there's kind of a self-acknowledgement there, but you can kind of tell. Like I think there is an effort that he is being nice to Richard Lewis in this season. I don't think that's accidental. I think there might have been something there. I think that might have been Larry David just kind of being nice to his friend after knowing he's had it so rough, but in his neurotic way. Also, the big thing, Richard Lewis, we should mention before too. Of course, Prince John and Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh man! Oh, that definitely makes me want to go back and watch that movie. I've never actually seen it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I always loved the Animaniacs parody, which apparently Richard Lewis hated, by the way. The fact, like someone doing, I don't believe. I'm pretty sure like they just had the sound like for Richard Lewis. I don't think it was that. But the fact is, he was unhappy with it either way you slice it, and it was like him doing Noah's Ark. So he was Noah getting all the animals together, and he was they were doing parodies of Richard Lewis's stand up in the things. It was funny.
All right. Before we move on, I'm going to give a couple shout outs to the commenters. We have Keeper Colby, who's saying February was slightly better than January, but not by much. Yeah. Little Blue, he probably shouted this out right before you said it, and then it came on. Does anyone remember Richard Lewis's role as Prince John in Men in Tights? Yeah, for sure. I will have to check that out. That will most likely be on this next month's catch-up. All right, and we also have Kogias. Also, Kogias, I just want to check in with you. I'm going to keep calling you Kogias instead of Anime Fan just because I think it rolls off the tongue better, unless you're against it. If you'd rather I call you Anime Fan, I will do that, but until you say otherwise, I will refer to you as Kogias. So I'm just checking in with you about that because I did notice you dropped the Kogias from the name. Anyways, he says, depending on who you ask, February was either a sad month or a happy month for Willy Wonka fans. Yeah, folks, I literally just dropped the Willy Wonka experience bombshell on Dragon right before we went on air. So he's
3 jelly beans, kids. 3 jelly beans.
3 jelly beans. All right. Okay, Dragon, what's next?
All right, so going from actual horrible news to first world horrible news, but still pretty upsetting horrible news. The Coyote versus Acme thing is just getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
So just to recap, there was hope. There actually was some hope a while back, and we were kind of like, everyone was like, see, this story should have had a happy ending that was pretty much just laid out for us. Like, okay, Zaslav shoots himself in the foot yet again. You know, like, hey, we've completed a movie. People have a little bit of interest in, and we're gonna can it for tax money. Which, by the way, is the fact that they're just kind of announcing that nonchalantly. I mean, look, I'm no lawyer. That belongs to our friend Rohit Dar. But I mean, it's announcing it's not tax evasion, but still, like, you know, kind of like
It's kind of the opposite of tax
I know that's
evasion.
the thing. Like, I don't know. It still seems like you're gaming.
Honestly, like equally as heinous.
I was say it's like you're gaming the federal government. You're just
Right, right.
like he's like, oh yeah, tax write off. No one's really denying that. That still
Dragon,
like
there's a theory going around that Disney is like intentionally slowing down the timelines on their construction so that their spending budget on any given quarter for the shareholder reports is lower. And if that's true, man, fuck them. They have no idea what they're doing. Anyways.
So the fact of the matter is, you know, so basically everyone is making a big sting about Coyote vs. Acme. In theory, it had a lot of juice behind it because James Gunn's name was attached to the project, which definitely got groundswell of support as James Gunn tends to accumulate. And everyone, like in the industry, all the directors said, you know, I want to work with Warner Bros. Just going to shelve all the movies and everything. So Warner Bros. Made the very odd choice, but still it was progress. Like, okay, look, we're not going to release me, but we'll sell it to somebody. You know, which is like, really, you're gonna let the Looney Tunes name, which essentially is like, literally Bugs Bunny appears after the Warner Bros. Logo,
right?
And you're gonna either way. So, all right, fine. Point, they're going to sell it. There are a number of fair offers. They won essentially $70 million for, which was the budget of the film, and they were given offers from like Netflix, Amazon, Paramount, and maybe some others. I don't think Hulu made a bid, but let's just say a number of streaming services made. I would say a fair bid of like 58 million or so, maybe 60 at the most, which clearly is under what they're asking. What it's their own fault because Warner Brothers announced like, hey, we don't want this, so you don't get to say.
Right.
So, I mean, just look. It's for the bad press you've already gotten.
Exactly. That's what these fucking studios don't understand. That's why I brought up the Disney thing, because it is giving them bad press, and they don't care if it'll save them a little money, and it's pissing me off.
It's $10 to $20 million worth of bad press you can avoid. Just
a
small. Just dip into your tax money a little. Dip into the.
I mean, Dragon. If they do that, I don't think Zaslav is going to be able to afford his private island getaway this Christmas. So
so many Zaslav memes of him like, why people are letting Zaslav. And you know what? I'm so happy about it. It's so deserved. This Zaslav guy, he's ticking everyone off in all the right ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, so essentially 3 streamers at least made very fair offers on film that they very clearly don't want. And they're basically threatening to delete the film entirely, and people are really not happy.
Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. You know, they're threatening to do the whole the original Roger Corman Fantastic Four thing, like Avi Arad buying and setting it on fire sort of thing. You know, it's like we're gonna delete the film. No one's happy. Everyone's speaking out like they're leaking things except for the full movie. Here's where we're at so far. The composer leaked the recording of this Requiem Meep choir, which sounds awesome. An operatic kind of Meep section that was in the score of the film. There was Eric Bowes has been making the rounds, saying guys, look, this movie's really good. We should don't let up on them. People should see. I went to all the test screenings. Everyone loved it, so there's no reason this film shouldn't have been released. And most recently, apparently, the whole outline, script outline of the film, has been leaked. So we're getting there. They haven't leaked the official film yet. We've seen a few stills, few images, but
I mean, Colby mentioned some employees should just play full hero and just leak the whole movie. Which, I honestly, if we see it at all, leaking it is probably how it's going to have to be. But you know what? fucking Warner Brothers literally like wrote themselves into that hole, dude. They have literally no one to blame by it but themselves.
I mean, it's weird to advocate piracy, but when the studios dig themselves this deep a hole, you kind of have to, guys, you really brought this on yourselves. You threatened to delete a movie that everyone wanted to see,
Uh,
just out of spite. It's it's ridiculous.
Anime fan says Wiley Coyote's a great character, and I was curious to see what a film starring him would be
I
like.
love the premise of this film. I would
Here's
like
the
to see
thing.
this
Here's
film.
the thing. Correct. You could call me on this if you think I'm off base here, but I honestly think at this point in pop culture history, the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner shorts are so popular that I honestly think they're more relevant than Bugs Bunny is.
Well, it's interesting because Bugs. If you look at the dynamics of Looney Tunes, you kind of three that come to mind. Again, you got Bugs and Daffy, you got Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner, and you have Sylvester and Tweety. Those are like the three. The push and pull kind of like effect you have there. Like these two guys are synonymous with each other. But admittedly, though, you can separate the other two. You need Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. So those two, because of that,
totally
have the dynamic, and because of that, like those shorts, I think have more stay power. So I don't think you're far off with that, but. I mean, that's the thing. Short of Daffy and Bugs, the next one in line.
I know when I was a kid, when I was watching Looney Tunes on Cartoon Network, when they would just air them in blocks, I was definitely looking forward to the Coyote ones. Those were the highlights. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one that thought that.
Regardless, this is a huge embarrassment for the studio. And given that Looney Tunes is ingrained in their branding, this is not going to. They're never going to hear the end of this unless they make this right, which I don't know what Zaslav's problem is. I would love to be a fly on the wall in the meetings. If I would wish like all the studios I just outvoted, like in a sense that obviously they can't override his vote, but they all just say, David, what do you think? Amidst all the chaos, like David, what are you thinking? Like not releasing the Looney Tunes movie, and like you see what's on that water tower? I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. All right. Anime's fan says, I thought that Porky Pig was considered the third biggest Looney Tune. Probably back in the 90s, he probably would have been as far as pop culture relevance, but he's kind of fallen off a little.
I mean, he is.
I don't really think they've done much with him.
He's important because he does end all the Looney Tunes.
That's true. Yeah.
That's why he's probably in the trifecta. But that said, it's the Wile E. Coyote though.
Kogias also pointed out that reason why they probably didn't do it was because of Space Jam 2 and Looney Tunes Back in Action. And my response to that is, well, if you didn't have faith in it to begin with, then why did you put the effort in? Why did you get all the creatives involved? Like, if you were just going to shelve it anyways, if you didn't have any hope for it, that why get everyone's hope up for it?
Even then, I mean, look, I think there's a big difference between Looney Tunes Back in Action, which this is kind of akin to in a sense, versus something like Space Jam, which is just that's a 90s nostalgia.
Space Jam 2 was literally a 90-minute HBO Max commercial. That's exactly all Space Jam 2 was.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anime fan says, I want a parody film where Batgirl and Wile E. Coyote are seeking revenge against the studio. And Colby says, do it in the next Chip and Dale movie, a la Ugly Sonic. Bro, I really hope they do another Chip and Dale just so we can continue to like lampoon the ridiculous. Could you imagine what they could do with like AI in a new Chip and Dale movie?
Yeah, all right. They make a meal
out of it. I want a new Chip and Dale movie now, man. Oh man. I don't think people give that movie enough credit for how good it was. I really liked it. Anyways. Also, really quick, I saw Peregrine said that he doesn't think that Zaslav had any intent to sell. What do you think of that, Dragon? Do you think maybe he just put it on sale, quote unquote, just to appease people?
I think it was absolutely backed into a corner, and he said, I think he came up with the most, what he thought was the best idea he could come up with, short of like, well, I'm just going to release it and just take the head to show we're a people's company.
Fair enough.
I think I think it's entirely possible he just did as like a gesture. It makes sense that okay, like we'll say we made an offer, but still, if you're going to make that offer, though, you actually have to sell at that point. Like, I don't know how he thought this was going to pan out for him though. Like, we're going to offer it to sell, we're going to get a lot of people support, and then we're not going to sell it. Like, that's only designed to backfire.
All right. What's next?
All right, next, Moana 2.
Oh boy. Oh boy. So Dragon, I believe I was the one that told you the real story behind this.
Yes.
Yeah, so this isn't like folks, this is not the traditional like they did not spend years developing this thing. What Moana 2 is, the only thing Moana 2 is basically they're taking the Disney Plus Moana show that they're planning on releasing and just putting it in theaters as a feature film. And honestly, I think this is very, very heinous, especially when you consider if Dragon, this is my drawing point here. If they release this under the banner of Walt Disney Animation Studios, because it's just not. You know what I mean? If you really factor it in, this is not the same level. It's just not the same anything as a traditional Walt Disney Animation Studios movie, even a bad one.
Well, look, let me say this again. When they announced this Moana series, I didn't expect it to be like bad or anything. But that said, there is a very distinct difference between feature quality and we're doing something kind of like if we see the strings of a budget for a theatrical release of one of these, we're kind of going back to the home video release, which is not. It's going to be like the Atlantis too. Atlantis
Like,
2
if this was a Disney Toon Studios movie, then fine. But yeah.
So I'm at the very look. I want to be clear. For all we know, this could have a nice story to it, but it feels like that we know for a fact that wasn't the intent. The intent was okay. We're just going to continue with things in a Moana series, but the fact that we know for a fact this is being recycled, and it just sets a bad precedent that if they can do that, Disney might be cutting its losses and getting really desperate. And well, we know they're desperate, like getting desperate to this degree, where it's like, hey, we're gonna all the previously announced stuff, we're gonna call it a movie now. We're gonna cobble it together so we can make more money off of it versus the fledgling Disney Plus model.
Yep.
I got a premonition. I have a feeling by the end of this month things are gonna get really bad for Disney.
Dragon, I think things are already really bad for Disney.
No. I think it's going to get worse by the end of March.
What in March specifically do you think is is it just a gut feeling or?
Let's just say I have a gut feeling that people who have Disney Plus are going to be really upset.
Price increase?
I hear there might be some crackdowns.
Oh, password sharing. Oh boy.
I'm dreading how that's going to go. If it goes the way I think it will, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, really bad.
All right. Let's see. Anime fan says I find it interesting that they're working on a sequel to Moana, live action and a remake at the same time. They must really like Dwayne Johnson. Yeah, that is definitely a good point. I think that the idea of them doing a Moana remake is already freaking ridiculous, and genuinely, I'm kind of surprised that happened before Frozen did. But just because with Frozen, we have a little bit of precedence for Frozen in live action. But yeah, they're really milking it. They're really milking it. Little Blue says, my guess is maybe they decided not to have this be a series before they probably did anything on the show and came up with an idea for a story of Moana 2. You get what I'm saying? Little Blue, it's been pretty much confirmed by sources that, yeah, that is not the case. The case is that, look, what they're probably going to do, they're probably going to, it's basically going to be a Disney Toon Studios movie from what I picture of it, where it's going to be like, they're probably going to animate some new stuff just to tie the story together, but by all intents and purposes, from everything I've heard about it from behind the scenes, this is just the Disney Plus show, everything they developed for the Disney Plus show, just repackaged. So yeah, I would like to be proven wrong about that, but so far that is basically the pretty much been confirmed to be what this is. All right. Anything else on that, Dragon?
Nope.
Okay. All right, we're slowly getting out of terrible news. Let's get into controversial, slightly dumb news. So Chris Stuckman, he got himself into some trouble. Dragon, I'd like to know your perspective on this.
So here's where I'm coming. So the whole thing with Stuckman is apparently Stuckman was he was seemingly reviewing Madam Web, and he basically used it as kind of a platform to say, I don't want to tear down Madam Web, and I'm not gonna. Basically, I think it's been overly simplified to like I'm not gonna review movies anymore, which is a little inaccurate.
He already announced that like 2 years ago, though. That's the thing.
So here's the thing. I think it's I think it's the right call to give the cast and crew and everything consideration whenever you talk about a movie. So it's not resoundingly negative or resoundingly positive. Yeah, I don't. It's not. I think his heart was in the right place. Okay, but this does feel like Stuckman making a meal out of it a bit. You know, maybe for the greater good. Maybe for the greater good. Like, you know, we do keep coming down on things, and you know there are sometimes feelings might get a little hurt here and there, but you know, like people like really like a poor director like who wanted to make something great in the studio just kind of like puts him in a vice. And I see the greater good here in that, okay, we can maybe challenge the studio systems a little bit here by just saying like, Sony, you can't keep pulling this crap. Look at what you're doing. I like that aspect of what he's going for, but I do feel like the whole oversimplification. I'm not talking. That's like, look at me. I want attention. That's what it feels like, Stuckman.
Yeah, my perspective on it, and I'm not like necessarily mad at him per se. I just think it was bad optics from him, and he probably should have realized that. And Madam Web is just not the movie to like go to war over. You know what I mean? Of all the movies to really go to bat over, that was not the one. That was not the one. I don't know. The reason why I wanted to put this in, and Kogia says Stuckman did nothing wrong, and I kind of agree to a certain extent. My thing is that I don't necessarily think that he was trying to tell people to not criticize movies and not, trash them to a certain extent. But I feel like that kind of, that was kind of the attitude that was conveyed in that video, was that just film criticism in itself is a bad thing, which is more than a little hypocritical coming from the man who basically made his YouTube channel off of the back of a series called Hilariosities. So, yeah, it's I just think it's interesting how it sparked such a big conversation about like the ethics of film criticism, and honestly, I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer to it. Colby's suggesting that it was a sponsorship thing, that he needed to come out with a big idea. I've heard that theory floated around. I could see it. I'm not gonna like necessarily subscribe to it, but I could see that. I could see that being the case. At any rate, like I said, I just think it's especially with him being a filmmaker, I wouldn't be surprised, Dragon, if his channel just kind of like slowly dies out. I like what he does in regards to when he does like retrospectives on older movies, and I think he should probably stick to that. I honestly don't think he should be reviewing current movies at all if this is going to be kind of the direction he takes with it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, like, do you see like it? You see like some good in what he's doing here, though.
I mean, I think it's misguided. I don't necessarily think that, because I've seen a lot of responses saying that there are a lot of good examples of the studio interference leading to a better product. So it's not as black and white as he's making it out to be. I think that's the problem.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we have I'm sorry, not Justice League, Jurassic World. We have Jurassic City, apparently.
No.
That was not confirmed. I
mean, look at the copy in front of you, man.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. Okay, Dragon, take this one, the Batman Beyond movie.
All right, yes. So, apparently, there was an actual animated Batman Beyond movie proposed by Yahuki Demers. I'm probably butchering his name, I apologize. And Patrick Harpin. Patrick Harpin, I want to say, was kind of the creator behind the project. And these guys, I want to say they were like, they had worked on the Spider-Verse films, and I believe they were in the art department of the Spider-Verse films. I don't know if both of them were, but at least Yahuki Demers was. Now, Patrick Harpin, essentially, he got Yahuki here, and they made the pitch to Warner Brothers. They basically pitched a Spider-Verse version of Batman Beyond, which had some amazing concept art behind it, which looks great. It's like it's in the Spider-Verse style, but not like literally the Spider-Verse style. It's just kind of like if you did something kind of in that art style. It's like because Spider-Verse looks very much like the comic. You know, it looks like a comic come to life. You know, the whole the pointillism kind of not pointillism. You know what I mean? Like the little thing we do there. But this had like very kind of the Art Deco kind of vibe of the future, which we always classically have with Batman Beyond. But it looked very true to Batman Beyond without being something kind of different for it, which looked really cool. Anyway, like it was this little artwork of him in a kind of a chase with the character Ink from Batman Beyond, and it looked really anyway. So what we learned was that 5 months ago, from this month, 5 months ago, they went to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers right off the bat said, "Okay, look, guys, we love your enthusiasm, but I'm going to tell you right before we do anything here, we cannot make a Batman Beyond movie." This was not Zaslav, but this was somebody up there, or someone saying, "Look, guys, love the heart for this thing, but we just the studio is very anti-Batman Beyond for some reason."
That's pretty crazy because it definitely has a fan base, and I also think the concept, more importantly than the original show having a fan base, Dragon, I think the concept would sell itself even to people that are not familiar with the show. That's the big thing. I don't understand why they're so adverse to it.
Now, here's the other thing. Okay, now here's the silver lining of this story. Now, they went in being told never. It would never happen. It's not a possibility. We cannot make a Batman Beyond film. Tell us to your little heart's content, but we cannot make this movie. They got to the end of the pitch. They went from never to maybe. So the hope, as that Patrick Harrison has kind of said here, the hope is that it'll work. They keep pitching and pitching, and they're hoping it's going to get up the ladder to James Gunn. If it gets to James Gunn, he's looking for animated projects right now.
Well, there you go. I mean, yeah.
I think James Gunn's too smart a guy to see, like, well, it worked really well for Spider-Verse. These guys know what they're doing, and everyone loves Batman Beyond. It's like the one thing we haven't done with Batman yet in film. I mean, admittedly, I know we do a really good Batman Beyond animated film already, but still, it's like, we're getting inching closer to live action, kids. That's the point. We're getting there.
I mean, that's the dream, though, is that full-blown, big-budget live-action Batman Beyond. Yeah, that's honestly what I would rather prefer. And Code Geass does make a good point where, it could be looked at as Marvel trying to copy DC, or DC trying to copy Marvel, I mean, which I honestly think that's a fair observation. I honestly think if the movie wasn't stellar, I think that they could run into that problem. So, we'll just have to see if it does get made, how much it stands out. I don't necessarily think it'd be a clone of Spider-Verse, but at the same time, I think the comparisons would be inevitable. So, yeah. All right.
Yep.
Okay, Jurassic... Sorry.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, I mean, Batman Beyond does have a lot of Spider-Man built into it anyway, so it does seem kind of like a good, Batman Beyond has a lot of, like, early Ditko era Spider-Man built in there, so it kind of fits.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Jurassic City. I have next to nothing to say about this, but it did get announced. I don't think the title's been confirmed yet, but honestly, I like the title. I would be happy if that's the direction we go in. And honestly, I'd be definitely happy if each of the Jurassic films in this new trilogy was like another location. I think that'd be interesting instead of just like Jurassic World subtitle. But more interestingly, Dragon, the thing I do want to get your thoughts on is Gareth Edwards doing the directing here. I think that's a smart choice. I think the man knows how to do scale well. I think he certainly does modern blockbusters really well. The problem with Gareth Edwards, I've always found, is that his movies always feel a little bit too clinical. As far as, like, they're always big spectacles, but I don't really feel like a sense of the humanity. But you know what? With Jurassic Park, it's like the first movie had a lot of humanity, so it's like I'm obviously not expecting the first movie from this at all. But with me, anything with Jurassic, I'm gonna watch once and probably never again at this point with the rate that the series is going. But I do have to check out every Jurassic movie at least once. So what do you think of Gareth Edwards?
I mean, he would not be my call for a Jurassic Park movie, given, like, most famously, Godzilla, our big thing was like, hey, we got Gareth Edwards. I mean, we're close to something there, but he's really shying away from the monster.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel like I feel like that was like a pretty specific directing choice for that movie.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's like his signature style. Like if you look at something like Rogue One, I think, we don't really shy away from showing the big money shots in Rogue One. So, I don't know.
Here's the thing. I think just the direction period for these Jurassic World movies going forward, again, they had money on the table with the Battle for Big Rock, that little short they did, which didn't have any of the principal players in. It has this great status quo of, okay, the dinosaurs are out there in the world. I mean, that short film honestly is better than Dominion.
Oh yeah, easily, for sure.
So with that said, I mean, that's the direction they should lean in, like, period. So I mean, that's essentially Jurassic City right there. There's your movie, just dinosaurs in the city.
Mm-hmm.
What's that life like now?
We'll see. I kind of feel like with that concept, it's like, yeah, forget Dominion happened. We're actually going to do the premise of that now. All right. Comments here. Colby says Jurassic City is a great name, but I think Gareth Edwards is an interesting pick. I hope Jurassic City brings back the original cast like Dominion did. From what I hear, they're going with a brand new cast. Mm-hmm. But by all means, I think that is the one really, really solid thing that Dominion did that I don't think people give it enough credit for is you brought back that trio and it was actually really entertaining and really well written. And all three of those characters had good shit to do in that movie. And it was just basically everything that the Star Wars reunion wasn't. So, yeah, that's kind of my stance for that. The rest of the movie is, by and large, pretty mediocre. But that one element, the original characters, that kind of saved the movie for me.
They'll bring back a one-armed Sam Jackson. You just wait.
Oh my god, dude, wouldn't that be great?
You thought I died, didn't you?
Colby says, I've always pictured a Triceratops in a mall crashing through a sunglass hut. That's specific, but I like that imagery. I feel you. I see where you're going with that. I hope they avoid the old stuff entirely, drop the number of dinos to just a couple species, leave the raptor and the Rex behind, do something new. Honestly, all of that. Yeah, I kind of agree with all of that, honestly. I feel like that would be smart. I feel like with the raptors specifically, they've done just about as much as they can possibly do with the raptors in as far as like how advanced they are. So yeah, it is time to move on to something else. Honestly, though, as you gotta have the T-Rex. I'm sorry, Colby. You gotta have the T-Rex. That's the only thing. You gotta have a T-Rex in a Jurassic Park movie. But raptors, I agree with, though. Anyways, none of the new characters in Jurassic World Trilogy were well liked, so nostalgia could be their last solution. Yeah, I agree. The one thing that they did not do in Dominion that would have been amazing was officially canonize Chris Pratt as the 6-foot turkey kid.
Yeah, that would have been great.
As long as it's not Rexy, fine. Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be Rex herself, but just just a T-Rex. I don't know, just for prosperity's sake. All right, Dragon, tell us about this new Justice League movie, an animated movie, apparently.
Well, speaking of the Jurassic franchise and dinosaurs, so it sounds like James Gunn. See, now they're currently with the Crisis film. They're wrapping up essentially the Tomorrowverse in the way they had been doing it before. James Gunn has basically enacting his animated film plan. So it's unclear if this is going to be more of an Elseworlds thing or if James Gunn is going to include this in like his his plan right now, like the whole Creatures Commando thing. Like, that's gonna be the first thing. But it sounds like, I don't know how, if it's 100% confirmed, but there have been some talks of James Gunn green lighting a Jurassic League animated movie.
So a theatrical one?
Well, no. That's what I'm saying. It's probably, well, honestly, I don't know. It might be direct to video, like per the other.
I mean, honestly, knowing James Gunn, Dragon, if anyone were to do a theatrical movie of that, it would be him to greenlight it, right?
It's possible. We don't necessarily know the direction he's going to take with these. I mean, it would be a first, though, if he's.
I mean, it's Justice League and it's dinosaurs.
True. I mean, they did release Super Pets, so.
That's actually a really solid point.
But that's the thing. This would be a really big deal, though, if they are like releasing, the animated, essentially the formerly direct-to-video stuff theatrically. That would be a really big deal.
Right, and I think they could still have their line of direct-to-video stuff. I just think this would probably be just, obviously more high budget.
Well, sure. I'm just saying it's interesting though. I wonder. James Gunn has been touting off like he's got a big plan to like do things that are all going to be kind of linked in the same universe, which he's probably just using the guys of like multiverse, like anything he doesn't want to actually have to deal with. That was in the multiverse. You have we're gonna have games, animated stuff, and live action stuff. It's all going to be able to cross over with each other. That's his plan. So, yeah. Also, here's something to note. Sorry, one last thing to note here. So Jurassic League does fit into his theme for his big phase 1 here, which is monsters. I think it's Gods and Monsters.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
All right, let's see. Next up, some more, speaking of DC news. So Superman Legacy's had an interesting news cycle lately.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was talking with Rohit and Peregrine, I'm sure Peregrine will bring this up in the comments. They really liked the name change. They did not like Superman Legacy as a name, and I'm like, well, okay, I mean, look, I wasn't like in love with Superman Legacy as a name, but just calling it Superman, really, just calling it Superman.
Even if the 78 movie's technically Superman the movie, I mean, come on.
But here's the thing. Here's my argument for that. The Superman, yeah, it might be technically Superman the movie. Superman 2 is just Superman 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Thing. Yes, that's what I mean. I mean, that is like the definitive. It's like the 89 Batman. Yeah, it's why we don't call any of these random ones Batman.
Right, yeah.
Batman, you have Superman. Like, these were the classic ones that made a splash and are like.
Dragon, to quote Paige Novak, my friend, this is muddying the waters.
Yes. Indeed. So it just feels, honestly, it just feels kind of uncreative of a title, just given we had like the surnames to all the other stuff. I mean, honestly, Superman here's what I wonder about the name change. I wonder if James Gunn, the way he says it, was that when they I don't know if it's like when he's finished shooting it, or I guess when he finished shooting it too, it's kind of like occurred to him, like at some point during production, it kind of occurred to him, like, no, actually, it feels right. We should just call it Superman or Superman Legacy. So I have to wonder if that has to do with the story thing, because part of me wonders if it's like Superman Legacy caused a lot of speculation that that should be like a younger and or older Superman. When you think Legacy, you're thinking an older Superman, but I don't know. Obviously, been really he's been really. Ever since they announced, like, hey, we're going younger with Superman, the whole Cavill thing. Yeah, everyone's been wondering, like, really, you're going to get a Superman who's, like, maybe, like, less than, like, 5 years younger than the previous guy, and you're going to call that a younger Superman?
Right.
Like, when Cavill started, he was, like, 28 playing Superman, It's just kind of like that whole thing. So I wonder if that was just, I wonder if the name change potentially has anything to do with, may have had something to do with that, but I think that's kind of blown over by now. So I think it's literally, but it's got to be some weird story thing where he just doesn't want to have like legacies. He wants to be like, James Gunn trying to do a definitive Superman take. That's what it feels like. If you're going to call your movie Superman, you must have a really good reason. This is going to be like the new definitive Superman movie is what he's thinking. So that's a lot of pressure to put on your movie. I'm going to say that much. Like, it's a bold move to call it Superman. Also, two other things. The second thing we're about to get to, but here's the one. When that picture was posted, we also first look at the symbol. We do have a confirmed symbol for Superman now, which is modeled after the Kingdom Come Superman S, but it's gold instead of black.
Nice. I have a hard time differentiating the logos. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, no, it's just the fact that we saw like a little tease of the suit. We saw the actual S on the suit. That we haven't seen the full suit yet, but we're seeing like everyone's a big. Of course, we're seeing the one part of the suit. Everyone's so weird. It's so weird putting it this way. The one part of the suit everyone wants to see essentially is the crotch, because they want to see, does he have the red underwear or not? It's a weird way of putting it, but that's the big question with any Superman costume. Are we going to do the red undies?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I dig it though. Those are big casting news.
Oh shoot! Oh, Dragon. I'm sorry, I don't have the name off the. Do you have it
I
written
have the
down?
name. I got
You
it.
should have fucking You shouldn't have trusted me with that, Dragon. You really
Yeah,
should have
you,
known
you
better.
you brought it up. You said, "Hey,
I
let's
know. I
mention
brought it
this."
up. I know. I know.
We weren't even supposed to talk about this, and you
All
said,
right.
"No, it's not Perry White." Okay, so Perry White is being played by Wendell Pierce, great character actor, who is playing Perry White. And it's interesting that the last couple Perry Whites that we've had have been really good black actors. So it's kind of
Mhm.
interesting. We're kind of doing this again. That's we had Lawrence
I like
Fishburne.
that they're setting a precedent for that. Yeah, yeah, and
It's
I
like
think it
something I never
works for
would
the
have thought of.
character.
Yeah, it has been working really well for him. Like for example, like you have Lawrence Fishburne. You have like the My Adventures with Superman Perry was also really good. It just kind of fits for him. I don't know why it just
Mhm.
works.
Yeah, so I'm definitely let's see, Code Geass is mentioning the fact that the film's overcrowded. He's also saying since Eve, Teschmacher, and Otis will be in this film, I wonder if it's going to be another Christopher Reeve tribute like Superman
I think
Returns.
there are going to be nods. How can you not? There are going to be nods to the original Donner Superman, but I don't think it's going to be like at the very least. I don't think it's going
I
to
don't
be
think
as
it's going to be like in canon like
yeah.
Superman Returns was. Yeah,
They're not going to
yeah.
go that far with it, but I think they're going to. I think it's going to be the logical thing. If James Gunn's like, okay, I want to capture the feeling of the first Superman film, which is going to have some of the staples. Like, okay, well, Lex is going to have hench people, so he's going to have Miss Tessmacher and he's going to have Otis. But so that makes sense. Like, okay, so Otis is going to be one of Luthor's right hand guys.
I mean,
Assuming,
Otis is definitely like a very, very Christopher Reeve Superman character for
yeah,
sure.
exactly. So
Otis
yeah,
is basically the equivalent to Bob the Goon in '89.
exactly. So yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, Little Blue, thank you. We did forget to mention that. Yeah, apparently, Dragon, this Superman film is going to be the most expensive film ever made. Which, the one thing I have to say to that is, why? Dragon, did we learn nothing from last summer's box office? Did we learn nothing?
You see, if you told me that back in '78, I would believe it because we had to make you believe that a man could fly. Like, okay, most expensive movie ever made, we got to make a man fly. Okay, that makes sense. We're in a day and age now where we can make a man fly rather easily because it's a projected background, but we did in '78.
YouTubers can make men fly rather easily, Dragon.
Yeah, that's the thing.
All right. Did you hear Colby's asking about the Joker 2 budget? Did you hear about that?
I it is yeah. I've heard the Joker 2 budget is going to be higher than the first movie, right?
It's over 200 million.
See that's unnecessary.
Dune.
However, there is
Dune
one
Part
thing.
2. Colby, what was the numbers for Dune Part 2? I think it was something like 120 million. And Dune Part 2 is literally like the most spectacular looking motion picture in the history of cinema. Yeah. So
There's only one reason I could see the Joker budget being higher than the first, but not $200 million worth. I can see it being higher than the first because they might have elaborate like musical numbers in the Joker 2 movie.
well, that's what I said. Yeah, but I'm saying like they better have like super elaborate musical numbers.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, how elaborate like, and expensive is that be? That's the real question.
Right. All right. Anyways, so okay, Dragon. Quickly go through the Ferris Bueller stuff. I don't have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, this sounds kind of interesting to me. Paramount. I don't know if it's going to be a series or a movie. It sounds like it's going to be a movie on Paramount Plus. They're doing Sam and Victor's Day Off. So this is a spin-off of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It is going to be essentially what happened to the valet guys who stole Cameron's car in Ferris Bueller. Now, the big thing I want to know about this movie again is it going to be a mid? I want it to be a midquel so badly,
like where it's happening like simultaneously with the original Day Off.
Exactly, that's what I want this to be. I don't want it to just be. And here's what the valet guys are doing now after that one time they stole that car.
Mm-hmm.
That's just going to be like
I'm just not too enthused about this, just because I'm pretty much like burnt out on remakes and reboots. But we'll see. I mean,
so rarely
we'll get something like A Christmas Story Christmas. It's like these can be good if they're done well. So
I'm just saying, like mid-cool is like an interesting opportunity, like to be in the thick of the nostalgia versus like, okay, here's a song like, hey, referencing events that have happened way back when.
Go Geass, of course, every popular film needs a sequel or spinoff. What kind of question is that? It makes money, baby. It's Hollywood.
And plus, it was like a talked about concept. I wonder what happened with those guys. I've seen a robot.
Is it really though? Is it really? I never once thought of that.
I mean, Robot Chicken is like
I am not into the premise the same way you are, sir.
Really? Never like wondered. I wonder what those guys.
No, never. I honestly think it's a really niche thing to make a movie out of.
Well, doesn't that excite you though? We do so many overblown things. Like here's something kind of niche.
Nah, I don't know, Dragon. I'm sorry.
You're
I don't think you and I are on the same page with
you're
this.
just dead inside. Let's just move on.
All right. Up next. So Spider-Man the Animated Series. I guess there's been some revival talk. I don't know much about it.
Yes, so because of X-Men 97 has been getting a lot of traction. We're going to talk about that momentarily, kids, so hold tight. Because of this, and it's been expected to do really well, there's been, like, John Semper Jr., the guy who show ran Spider-Man the Animated Series. He's mentioned, like, look, all they got to do is call me. Okay, I'll be there in a heartbeat. And of course, Spider-Man the Animated Series ended on a big cliffhanger, which there's like I know what happened.
Madam Web, if I remember correctly.
It does indeed. It does. By the way, in lieu of this news and with all the Madam Web stuff, there are two clips from Spider-Man the Animated Series that have come to mind most frequently. The hilarious meme response to Madam Web the movie to me is the clip from Spider-Man the Animated Series. Essentially, it's the last time he sees Madam Web until the finale, where he's interacting with her again. As Madam Web, Spider-Man's mad at her. He's basically chewing out Madam Web, saying a lot of mean things to her. It's like, you and your supreme arrogance, Madam
Oh my
Web.
God.
Like, I never want to see you again. That's what So that's essentially,
that's awesome.
so there's that. So that's the perfect response to the Madam Web movie. Now, on the flip side, I'm also watching the last scene from Spider-Man the Animated Series, which is the Stan Lee moment, which features Joan Lee in it.
Right, yeah. I definitely remember seeing that.
So, so basically, the point being, there is a built-in cliffhanger, and I've actually read the script to what that cliffhanger, the resolution of that cliffhanger would have been, but this does beg the question. If they do come back, where could we go here? Because it's again, there's that weird Spider-Man proviso. It works. We are getting an animated Spider-Man show freshman year. So between that and here's the thing, toy-wise, the X-Men toys, because of the 97 show, have been popular, been coming back in a big way, and so the Spider-Man the Animated Series toys lately. So it is entirely possible. Like there's a market for 90s Spider-Man right now. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't have a ton to say about this because I didn't really grow up with the.
You'll notice the one Spider-Man not butchered. I don't mean butchered. I'm sorry, butchered's too negative. But, the one Spider-Man who's not in a weird conflicted place at the end of Across the Spider-Verse. You'll notice 90s Spider-Man.
That's fair.
I'm just saying, spectacular. We threw him under the bus. Even Josh Keaton, the actor, said, "Yeah, I wasn't crazy, but we did with like him being on board with all that." But they're writing it. I wanted to voice the character still. So yeah, just saying.
All right, so we're going to glaze over this pretty quick because we don't really know a lot about the project yet. But Christoph Waltz has been cast in a Dracula movie, presumably as Dracula, by all intents and purposes. From everything I found, it does seem to be that he is playing Dracula. So I don't know about you, Dragon. I think that's perfect casting.
I think it's perfect casting too. I mean, assuming he's not playing Van Helsing, I think Dracula would be great for him.
Now, having said that, I'm not thrilled with the director choice because it's Luc Besson, who, Dragon. First of all, there's some controversial, icky behind the scenes stuff with Luc Besson that I don't really want to get into, but it's there. But then also, just more importantly, I just think Luc Besson's style it's a weird choice for Dracula, man. Because when I think Luc Besson, I think like gaudy, over the top, weird, surrealist sci-fi. So I don't know. It's going to be a different take, but we'll see. All right. Okay, so I appreciate y'all for bearing with us, folks, because this is going a little long with the news. We have one more news piece to go over and then a couple trailers. Dragon, fantastic forecast. Lay it out for us.
All right, so we confirmed Pedro Pascal is indeed playing Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, which I think is excellent casting. I think that's
really good. Yeah,
we have Vanessa Kirby as
elevate his career even further.
We have Vanessa Kirby as the Invisible Woman, which I mean, I don't. Have you seen anything really good with Vanessa Kirby in it?
Dragon, she's one of those actresses where she gets a lot of hype in my circles, but I've never personally been all that impressed by her. I mean, she's good, but I off the top of my head, I can't think of like a standout role for her.
I mean, look, I'm hopeful. I mean, she looks the part, but that's the thing.
I certainly think it's a better casting choice than Jessica Alba.
Well, that's what I'm getting
give
at,
that
Tiki.
much.
I just hope we're not making the same mistake. Let's cast some eye candy. No, we don't want eye. She's invisible. We don't need eye candy.
I mean, look, I think Vanessa Kirby's pretty respected in my circles. I just, like I said, for me personally, she's not really done it that much for me. But
I don't know if she has the chops for it, but then again, we haven't really been ambitious with the Invisible Woman in film. So I mean, there's room to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Joe Quinn as the Human Torch. What was his name in Stranger Things, Tiki? What was the character's name?
Oh shit! It's on the tip of my tongue. Why can't I think of it? It's the Eddie Munson. Eddie Munson.
There you go, Eddie Munson.
Yeah. So I think that is some really solid casting. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could. I think he could work, but I mean, he was. I don't know. It wouldn't. I always thought Joe Keery would have made a really good, Human Torch if we're pulling in from Stranger.
I think this guy is kind of out of left field, though. I think he's an interesting pick, and we haven't really seen him do much beyond Stranger Things. So I'm excited because it's going to be like a similar energy to Stranger Things, but it's definitely a different character. So excuse me, I'm excited.
All right, and then lastly, the interesting pick here, we have Eben Moss Barak.
Mm-hmm.
Or Barak.
Yeah, and all I can say with this guy, Dragon, he was not one of my favorite parts of The Punisher. I did not really care for the writing on his character all that much. But when I watched The Bear, oh man, he is the standout of The Bear, Dragon. I would say he's probably the best performance on The Bear. So, and I think his energy on The Bear is just perfect for Ben Grimm. So, yeah, I'm stoked for this casting. I think this is the one, like, real slam dunk. Because, honestly, my main concern with Pedro Pascal, I like Pedro Pascal, but Kogias is pointing out, like, we did have Krasinski. Krasinski would have worked. And then also with Pedro Pascal, for me personally, I think the one thing I'm worried about is Pedro Pascal becoming an actor where his name and his face is going to be bigger than the role itself.
Well, let's face it, his face is not going to be bigger than the role itself because we don't see his face on Mandalorian.
Well, yeah, but you know what I'm saying. He's just he's becoming a very big pop culture icon. So, yeah. I don't know. All right. And he was good in Andor too. You're right. Small role, but he was solid. Okay, anything else on this?
This guy's got acting chops, I know, but it's gonna be really weird that we're gonna have like someone playing this like two roles, and I know it's been done before, I get it, but still, it's like we killed Cottonmouth, and we have like Mahershala Ali playing Blade, we have Mike Rowe, and we now have that same guy playing the thing. It's just, and I know, like, if you go super deep cuts and things, you're gonna find, like, okay, well, the guy who plays Sousa, Agent Sousa from Agent Carter, he was also like the first responder in Avengers. This is what I'm saying, though. There's only so many times we can pull this sort of hat trick. It just feels a little weird that there's so many actors.
Dragon, I just don't think anyone cares about Mike Rowe. I think that's what it comes down to.
But it's weird that we went out of our way to say, okay, finally all the Netflix stuff counts, and guess who we cast?
No, you know what? That is a good point. Just with the timing of it all, it is kind of. I want to be clear.
I think he's a good pick, but it just feels weird to do that. And one of the other people that wanted the role for the thing, who would have been also a really good thing, David Krumholtz. Bernard from Santa Claus. He actually wanted to be the thing.
Oh my god. Okay. That's a deep cut, man. I'm not sure how I would have felt about that.
I'm not saying
I love Bernard, but
I'm not saying that guy feels like a New Yorker though.
He does. Yeah. All right. Anyways. So trailers, Dragon, we have to tread lightly around this because Kogias actually did like the movie, and I don't want to insult his taste, but Megamind and the Doom Syndicate.
Hey, DreamWorks made this personal, okay? If Kogias doesn't want to stick around for
that. Kogias said he watched it and he liked it, and he said that people shouldn't be so mean when it's clearly not trying to live up to the first movie. But here's the thing.
It is trying to live up to the first. What kind of excuses?
I haven't watched this movie. For all I know, it's perfectly harmless. Right? For all I know, it's perfectly harmless. I'm not saying it's good, but it could be harmless. It could be like a DC League of Super Pets level of it's nothing I'm going to watch again, but it's a harmless movie. That being said, I just want to emphasize, and this is what we're talking about, Kokias. We're not talking about the movie itself. We're just talking about the trailer. And it is a terrible trailer.
It's a very bad trailer.
It is just the way that it's edited, the shots that they chose. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big Megamind fan. I don't really I like it. I think it's a good movie. I just wouldn't put it in like top tier DreamWorks like most people would. I would say it's like, if DreamWorks was on a tier list, I'd put it in the B tier, not quite the A tier, but it's definitely a solid time. But I know most people like really love it, so yeah.
Yeah, so what I do know about this is, they recycle the Doom Syndicate was a plot point in the first Megamind movie that did make the final cut. Like originally, Titan was going to team up with some supervillains, and that's where the idea for them came from. Then it got recycled into the tie-in game when the movie came out. So basically, they've done this yet again. There's no budget on this thing, from what we can tell in this trailer. It's the sound alikes are far from seamless. Which, I mean, I understand if they can't go Wolfer, but you're going to get a sound like you got to have someone who's going to really, really sound like the person. And I don't believe that Wolfer actually signed off. I think Wolfer was like giving a bunch of paperwork. Hey, can you sign off on this? Oh, yeah, sure. I don't think he actually listened to the guy. And we have like a kid sidekick. A lot of it, we're calling Minion old chum.
Honestly, the kid sidekick, the kid sidekick, that was one of the plot points that really turned me off. Especially because, like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's blatantly just, this movie is just going to be one of those things where it's like 3 episodes of a TV show stitched together. And then literally at the end of the trailer, like, and coming soon, the Megamind TV show. And I was like, yep, that makes sense. They got to have the kid protagonist for the audience surrogate.
I knew the TV show was coming. I didn't know we were getting a movie that was going to lead into a TV show, which, yes, you're right. That does look bad. So, I don't. Here's the thing. My hopes for Megamind, I think, were very achievable. Okay, I just wanted something more like the short film they did, The Button of Doom, which is what's the next progression for Megamind. He's trying to become a superhero, but he's still got some villain-like tendencies. Like there's your premise. That's essentially what this film is trying to do. But I tell you, I watched the first 6 minutes of this film. I put this clip up on YouTube. It was essentially the first 6 minutes of the movie. I gave it a shot. I can see the potential there, but it's not clicking. He's just not there. I can't. I don't want to ruin any good memories I have of Megamind by watching something that's just going to be, like so subpar. I don't want to do that to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just feels like we're diminishing the brand, in a sense. If we with this, that's what this whole thing feels like. When I was really optimistic and hopeful for this thing. It seems like we've made a lot of, I don't know, a lot of questionable choices.
All right. The kid sidekick was important to the film. Kogias, look, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like as I said last night, I respect that you like it, but I don't know. Anyways, I'm sure it's perfectly fine as far as just like. Anyways, okay, Dragon. Let's move on. I'm kind of like, I'm sort of starting to get a little bit of anxiety because we're going over long on this news and we're not getting to the movies fast enough, but we have trailers to go still. So take us into Knox Goes Away. Why don't you lead the charge on this one?
Well, Keaton's.
You know what, Dragon? We're going to drop Garfield.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about Garfield. We'll drop it. All right.
So this is Mike Keaton's directorial debut. It looks like it's got some nice action. It's got some style to it. So it looks like we're, the angle here is that Keaton seemingly is like a hitman who has dementia. And looks like the directorial choice of how we're showing that is going to be kind of interesting. And James Marsden's in it. So good old James Marsden.
I love seeing James Marsden in a serious role, man. That's what makes me really excited about this. And Keaton too. Keaton looks really good too, but just that pairing. And honestly, I think the two of them do look visually similar to each other. I think it's really good casting to pair them together as father and son.
I'm looking forward to this movie. Honestly, I think it looks good. This is kind of like so many times we do kind of like the usual like action kind of thing, but this looks like there's a little some action there, and Keaton's put some blood, sweat, and tears into it. It would seem.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that one for sure. It's already premiered in festivals and stuff, as you could probably tell from the trailer showing all the critic clips. But people seem to really like it based on that, so I'm definitely into it. All right, next up, I'll take the lead on this, man, because this came out of nowhere. I didn't even know about this, Dragon. But oh my god, this is probably the trailer of the year for me so far. Late Night with the Devil.
I told you you'd
What a
like this.
trailer, man. What a trailer. I am stoked for this. So essentially, this looks like it's going to be like a throwback found footage horror movie where it's like a Halloween broadcast from 1977 that apparently went horribly wrong. But we don't know how, we don't know anything about it. Dragon, this fucking teaser trailer is brilliant, and honestly, this just shot up instantly to be one of my most anticipated of the year, man. I'm stoked for this. This thing is like it's like it was tailor made for me, bro.
Yep, that's the first thing I thought of when I was watching it. Man, Tiki,
Right?
everything he's looking for. Even, look at you. There's even Dave DeSmulchin.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. Colby
Okay.
says I'm so excited for Late Night with the Devil. Yeah, it really like I did not know about it when I put together my top 10 most anticipated, but by all means I would have had it on my list if I would have known about it. All right, and finally, Dragon, finally, X-Men 97. I haven't really I'm sure I've probably dabbled watching an episode or two here and there, but I'm not really, I didn't really follow the whole thing, but for all intents and purposes, this looks good. If it get Dragon, here's the thing. This is what I always say with stuff like this. If it gets a lot of hype, I will check it out. But if it's just one of those things that just kind of comes and goes, and people just say like, "Yeah, it's okay, it's fine," I probably won't. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm kind of waiting to see if it has a hype swell going when it gets released.
I think this is going to have a hype swell. It's X-Men, for pity's sake, and not only that, it's like the returning most popular iteration of the X-Men. Without this, we don't get that.
Dragon,
Get
it's
the
Disney
X-Men
Plus.
films.
I don't trust anything on Disney Plus nowadays. I'm just straight up.
I think this is the exception, though, man. Come on.
We'll see. We'll see.
Anyway, I think it very impressively has recaptured the look of the show. It seems like we're continuing where it left off. That's what really impressed me. Like we're not just like rebranding. It's like okay, this is like literally where it left off. Just kind of checking in like years, I guess, a little time later. Moving forward, it's applying the stuff that we know now. It's really one of the really cool bits we had action wise was something we like. I don't think they've ever done in the original show, at least to my knowledge. Gambit and Wolverine, the moment they had, were basically Gambit supercharges the adamantium claws.
Right, right.
Looks awesome. So I got a really good feeling about '97, man. I think it's gonna. I think they're gonna. Here's the thing. I was never super crazy about the X Men the Animated Series. I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Uh-huh.
I had that stuff. I was.
I mean, I do think that I will say this much. I do think that a serialized X-Men animated show has a ton of potential if they do it right, because I feel like that has way more potential than any sort of movie, because the X-Men is kind of the sort of IP that honestly just lends itself to a long form narrative.
Yeah, see, for me, in the show I'd recommend to you, Wolverine the X Men. For me, that was always my go-to
Uh-huh.
in terms of like a serialized X Men thing. But yeah, it's anyway. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to even not being like a ride or die X Men the Animated Series fan. I'm very kind of sold on this.
All right. Okay, folks, finally, I appreciate your patience. We are going to get into the February 2024 movies. It was a big movie news month this month, so I apologize for that. Dragon, let's kick things off with Orion in the Dark. This was released on Netflix. It's a new DreamWorks movie. It's not gotten a ton of hype. What do you think about it?
So yeah, this is basically the animated film DreamWorks did that is written and kind of driven by Charlie Kaufman.
I keep forgetting that. I keep forgetting the Kaufman thing.
So that's the thing is, how do you forget that? We literally have like a meta plot point in this film where we're like, we stop the narrative. It's
No, that's
Kaufman
true.
doing
Yeah,
his.
you're right. That is very Kaufman-esque.
I'm saying there's tons of Kaufman. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
so yeah, here's the thing. I liked the movie, but I think when it went super Kaufman, it went a little far. I like how it paid off though, so I can't say I didn't like it, but it just felt like a little random. Like I don't know, if the general audience would really react to it, with the whole with all the Kaufmanisms. Basically like we're framing like a bedtime story, and we just kind of stop the
I
narrative
mean,
there. Wait a minute.
to be fair, I think this is very like Kaufman, Dragon. When you say Kaufmanisms, the man could go a lot more weird than this narratively.
Honestly, my read on this is Kaufman as a kid. I
This
think
is
this is
basically like the Princess Bride framing device with a little bit more meat on its bones.
here's the thing. This movie does feel like a lot of this feels like what Kaufman would imagine as a kid, though.
No, that's right. Yeah. I can see that. Um, so my general take on this movie is I'm with you. I like it. I don't love it, but I don't know, man. DreamWorks is in this weird state. I kind of feel like it's in the same sort of realm as Ruby Gillman, whereas I feel like Ruby Gillman was a little overhated, but it's still not that great of a movie. We'll get to that when we get to my catch up. But with this, it's I really think it had potential to be a great movie. I just don't think. I think the script was good. I think the actual meta stuff was some of my favorite stuff in the movie. My thing is, Dragon, I really didn't like the characters that they added in this movie. I really think this movie should have just stuck to Orion and Dark, because I really felt like most of the other characters that they brought in were just completely unnecessary. And honestly, their presence kind of hurts the movie for me. Here's the thing, though. Paul Walter Hauser is Dark. I think he's doing a really solid vocal performance. And you know me, I'm a big champion of Paul Walter Hauser. So there is a lot of stuff to. I love the design of Dark. I love how they animate him. There's a lot of stuff in this movie to really admire, but I just think that plot wise, there's just a little bit too much going on with the logic of the dreams and everything and the spirits, and it's just a little too much. It's just because I know that the original children's book, it is just Orion and the Dark. You don't have any of these other entities, and I think that was that's kind of what sort of derailed this movie for me, was their presence.
I wonder how much of that is just DreamWorks is just too afraid just to do like a 40-minute special. It's like, no, we need to market it.
I mean, honestly, I think this would have definitely worked as a 40-minute special.
Yeah, absolutely. We just made it just Orion in the Dark. 'Cause, I mean, that's at its core story. The core story, it's there. I love this kid, this anxiety-ridden kid. I love how we showcase that. He's literally afraid of the dark, and we confront that fear in really kind of fun, cute ways. I mean, the core story is cute, but again, we throw in some time travel. I don't know, a little brawl with it towards the end.
I kind of agree with Colby, where I did think that the ending really paid off.
It does pay off.
I really
Yeah,
like the ending.
that is nice, but I feel like the time travel.
I like the stuff that they did when the daughter was inserted into the story. I thought that worked.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that better than you did, clearly.
Yeah, probably. I'm not offended by it or anything. Just didn't really score major points.
All right, next up we have Lisa Frankenstein. Dragon, I can tell you the big reason people were excited about this movie was Zelda Williams. And for me, honestly, I wasn't letting that name get me too hyped, because I'm like, yeah, obviously Robin Williams is a huge like folk hero practically to people our age. But Zelda Williams, there's no real like what has she done besides just be Robin Williams' daughter? Like, I didn't want to. What?
Legend of Korra. She voices Kuvira in Legend of Korra.
Okay, that's still not a creative thing, though. No. So basically, what I'm saying is that I didn't really understand why the hype was just like, oh, Robin Williams' daughter is making a movie. I'm like, okay, but is she a good filmmaker? Dragon, yes, she is a good filmmaker. I think this movie is oozing with style. I really love the style of this movie. I honestly feel like this movie is probably one of the better 80s throwback things, just visually, specifically because they don't really marinate in the typical kind of like Stranger Things style pop culture saturation. Instead, it just kind of goes for more of like a naturalistic 80s vibe, but also with a lot of neon, a lot of color. It's a very distinct look visually, and I honestly am really excited to see what Zelda Williams does next because, yeah, she is a good director. And I do think that the leads in this are good as well. Cole Sprouse in particular does a really good job as the corpse because there's just his whole performance is just completely nonverbal, and there is some genuine pathos to his character. I will say this though, the plot of the movie is kind of a mess. It's, it's a really fun time, but it's one of those movies where you kind of look back on it and you're just like, wow, yeah, that sure happened. A bunch of just, it almost kind of seems like an incoherent chain of events in some ways. Catherine Newton Dragon, she was really good though. She was of course Cassie in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum Media, not the first Ant-Man and the Wasp. But yeah, I think she was really good as the title character. I think her and Cole Sprouse had really good chemistry. Hardest PG-13 I've ever seen. I think I agree with that. So yeah, Dragon, I would definitely recommend this. I don't. It's definitely not going to be like on my top 10 of the year or anything. But I think as a directorial debut for someone who has a big name in the industry, I think it's a really promising film from an up and coming creator.
Yeah.
All right. So Dragon, tell me, who is the real Agent Argyle?
I don't want to spoil it for you.
Oh, I know who it is. But it's dumb.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was looking forward to this because I
know you were. Dragon, I had a bad vibe about this movie from the get-go.
Yeah. So I was looking forward to this because I love Matthew Vaughn. But that's a little let down. It's all right, but it baffles me at times. Like why we had to complicate such a simple premise. Okay, essentially we're doing Romancing the Stone, but with spies. It's not that hard. Okay, it's what the movie should have been, and it wasn't. It's the performances. Like the performances are great. Mainly Sam Rockwell, who of course never disappoints.
I've heard Rockwell's the reason to watch the movie if you watch it.
He's always the reason to watch any movie. It's Sam Rockwell. Cranston always delivers. He has I think he has two really standout scenes in this movie. One with a shotgun. Anyway, so it's just sorry, there's this annoying device, there's an annoying directorial choice of her imagining Argyle during an action sequence, and let's just say
I've heard a lot about this. Yeah, it sounds really annoying. It sounds really annoying.
For that, and the payoff's iffy. I mean, it like in quotes it works, but not really. As I said, even with the marking from the very beginning, even anything nice I did say about the movie, I did make the note. I'm sick of cats and cat ladies. Okay,
so yup. Dragon, was the cat as pointless to the plot as I thought it would be?
I mean, pretty much. I don't know. I mean, like
I heard theories that the cat was going to be Agent Argyle.
No. Let's just there's the third act here. The real thing is that I could excuse a lot of it. The third act really drags, and ultimately there's an implication of a Kingsman connection, which feels a little pointless by the end of it. Like, really, we're going to do this?
That's now? So dumb. Why?
Like, you really wanted to knock everyone's socks off. Like, maybe that's your third act plot twist. Okay, it's Kingsman actually.
Colby saying they literally leave the cat behind for a good chunk.
That is true. Yes.
Like I really truly feel like the cat was just trailer bait, man. It was hardcore trailer bait.
Yeah. I'm so sick of cats, man.
All right.
Anyway.
Okay, so next up on my end, we have Drive Away Dolls. Do you know anything about this?
I saw the trailer for this. It looked kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. It's directed by Ethan Coen, without Joel, and it's definitely Coen Brothers light. Honestly, I think I like it better than most people because it's getting pretty critically panned. But that being said, it's not a great movie by any stretch. The thing I do really love about it, though, is I think it's got a really dynamic pair of lead characters and lead performances. Dragon. I mean, those two women are just fantastic together. They really, really just jump off the screen with their chemistry. Margaret Qualley. She was probably my least favorite performance in The Leftovers, but that's probably just because the character was just Jill as a character. She was basically just like the angsty teenage daughter. It was pretty much a thankless role, more or less. But then she was in Solitary last year as like a BDSM dominatrix, and she really impressed me there. And here she was even more impressive. And frankly, I think Margaret Qualley is on her way to an Oscar if she keeps up this trajectory. Because I think she's really doing a great job of establishing herself as a powerhouse. I think her performance in this movie really, like, it's by no means is it going to get any sort of awards consideration. It's not that kind of performance, but it's a magnetic performance. It absolutely leaps off the screen. The problem is, Dragon, the rest of this movie pretty much sucks. As far as like the storyline, Dragon, I gotta tell you, there's basically the storyline is that they're carrying this case, right? And they don't know what's in the case, but it's kind of like a No Country for Old Men thing where people are like chasing after them because they accidentally have this case. Dragon, I don't want to spoil what it is, but what's in the case pissed me off. It makes no sense as a plot device. It makes no sense why it would be as valuable as it is. It's a low-hanging gag. I don't like it at all. It kind of derails the whole plot of the movie for me. But like I said, the chemistry between the lead actresses is impeccable. So there is that. All right. Are the next two mine? You haven't seen Lover, Stalker, Killer?
No, I have seen it.
You have it? You have? Okay. So this one, Dragon, I thought it was good. I thought the plot twists were interesting. But here's the thing. This is basically like the whole gimmick of this documentary is, it's a true crime documentary with a bunch of plot twists. Dragon, it's one of those things where with true crime, this kind of feels like a little bit exploitative, honestly. It was an interesting story. I thought the twists were interesting, but it's a little exploitative.
I don't see how it's exploitative. Like, the guy is involved in this process, though. He's not. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just saying, as far as like, is this really something that we need to actually make a documentary about? I don't know, man.
I mean,
it's not Dragon. It's not necessarily this in general. It's more so like my growing concern on the ethics of true crime in general,
I do
that's
like
kind of where I'm coming down on it.
Narratively, I do like our big twist. I thought that was, it's great, of course, for those. Basically, you have a guy who meets a lady on a dating service, and let's just say the new girlfriend, things turn rather menacing. It's got a good kind of like, kind of stalkery kind of mystery to it.
That's the thing. It's like that's what kind of bothers me about it is that I feel like it's edited as this basically feels like it's edited like Gone Girl, and it's like Now keep in mind, we just recently saw a documentary series that was basically like exploring like a real life Gone Girl situation, and I thought that documentary handled itself a lot better as far as like it's really taken on the real world implications of everything, and kind of like absolutely showcasing the media frenzy and how shit can get twisted. This is just doing the Gone Girl thing. Do you see what the difference is?
Well, I'll admittedly, I think the series was better. I mean, obviously they're not the same story.
I'm just saying from a moral point of view, I feel like this is a little bit sensationalist.
Well, yeah, because the other thing is it's not exploitive. It's basically shining a light on like how badly the system failed these people.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I feel like the true crime docs that actually work are the ones that are shining a light on something. All right. Anyways, morals. Colby said we got one on Max called, they called him Mostly Harmless. That was less about the victim, more about the beef between two Facebook mods. Why do we need this stuff? Yeah, I saw that on Max, and I was like, that does not.
That might be more like they got that from Discovery, though. I don't know how much of that's like an HBO thing.
I'm pretty sure it's an HBO thing. I'm pretty sure it wasn't marketed under the Discovery logo. But, all right. And finally, for me, I have Perfect Days. This is the Japanese nomination this year for Best International Feature at the Oscars. And Dragon, I have seen 4 out of the 5 Best International films. I'm most likely not going to be able to see Io Capitano before the Oscars, but I think out of the 5, it probably has the least possibility to win anyways, and it's the one that I've heard the least great things about. But man, I gotta tell you, between Society of the Snow, The Teacher's Lounge, this, and Zone of Interest, it's been a stacked year for Best International Film. I mean, this is awesome. The thing is, Dragon, I don't think that you'd like this movie very much, because this is a very, very, very meditative, slow-paced movie. And if I told you the premise for it, I literally think you're going to roll your eyes and be like, Tiki, why is that a good movie? Would you like to know the premise, Dragon?
Yeah.
It's a guy who cleans toilets in Tokyo. And it's just him going about his day-to-day life. That's it. That's the movie.
Huh.
But what's really great about it, Dragon, is that this guy, he maybe has less than a dozen lines overall. He's a very silent character, but he's one of those characters where every time he speaks, it's very meaningful. He keeps a lot of stuff to himself. The performance is awesome. But this guy it's very much a looking on the bright side of life kind of movie, Dragon. It's very much a movie that's all about showcasing, like, the moments of beauty and nature that are all around you if you know where to look for them. I don't even really know how to describe what this movie does. It's one of those things where you just kind of have to let it take over you. I'm glad I saw it on a big screen, but I also think it would work on a small screen. It's a life-affirming movie, man. That's all I can say. It's a movie about a guy who is living an existence that seems to be the most mundane thing you could possibly imagine, but the little things that he does, the little day-to-day habits that he picks up, the small rituals and small moments of happiness that he's able to find. Dragon, it's really uplifting, man. It really, it's the kind of movie where when I walked out of it, I was like, man, that kind of gives me a new perspective on how to live life a little bit. I thought it was pretty profound, personally. I really loved it. And I'll say this. I think if I would have seen this movie before I put together my top 10 of 2023 list, I think it would have definitely been in the top 5. I'll say that much. I loved it. But I do totally acknowledge that it is the kind of movie where it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. Like, if this movie wasn't nominated for Best International Film, I probably would have never checked it out. So I totally acknowledge that me laying it out like it is, you don't know. You don't really have the context for what this movie truly is unless you actually watch it. It's just one of those types of movies. All right. Okay, Dragon, I think it's time. That's it, right? You don't have anything else?
Nope.
Okay, just making sure. I think it's time we transition into some TV.
Let's see what's on.
All right. The Truth About Jim. I'll be really quick about this. It's another true crime thing, but the reason why it did catch my attention is, Dragon, specifically because the case really reminds me of the situation that my mom went through that she just recently got out of with an abusive partner.
Your mom is dating the Zodiac Killer?
No, it wasn't. Here's the thing. It wasn't so... This movie... Yeah, the whole thing is the... wait, did you watch this?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. So here's the thing, Dragon. All the stuff with how this guy affected the individual families, how he would tear the family members against each other, and that is all stuff that just is spine-tinglingly accurate to what I went through. So yeah, that's all I can say about it. I think this was really well done, but I also think that, like we were saying, I think it shines a light on abuse and gaslighting. I honestly think the actual serial killer angle is one of the less interesting elements.
I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
No, seriously,
I'm glad we agree on that.
Yeah. I'm enthralled by this whole thing of, like, I guess with the, I think it was with the first wife, but he sat down for a divorce, and the lady had, like, I have a friend here, so basically I can basically ask for a divorce, and it spiraled out of control, like something out of a nightmare. That's interesting to me. However, here's the thing. Look, the core murder investigation, I get why we're doing that, and that does.
I honestly think you could have done a documentary about this guy and just literally not brought up the serial killer stuff. I think this guy is that much of a monster on his own without adding that in.
Here's the thing, okay? I think the Zodiac Killer thing was like one of those things where it was too incredulous to, like, I knew from the get-go, okay, he's not going to end up being the Zodiac Killer. We know he's not going to end up being the Zodiac Killer.
I think that was stupid of them to even try and build any suspense over that, yeah.
Because that was one, even if that were the case, I think that one actually would have been really newsworthy, first of all.
Exactly. Really, we would have.
We have a guy who actually may have been the long lost killer, even if it's like a legit suspect. I felt so bad for that investigator that was with her. It's like, that poor guy. He's being so polite to her right now. Like, there's, Anyway, now again, all seriousness though. Again, the fact that this guy, there is a good chance he was the hitchhiker killer. Yeah, so that is interesting though. But you're right though.
Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this whole thing literally takes place in my neck of the woods.
I was thinking that the whole time. So yeah, he's gonna get a kick out of that.
Yep. This dude was from Santa Rosa. That's like 2 towns over from me.
The fact of the matter is, at its core, this thing's interesting. Boiled down to the granddaughter, the step granddaughter of this monster, reveals, like on Facebook or something, that he did all these horrible things, and she's coming after it. He was my teacher. He was a nice guy. What are you saying? He's not around to defend himself, like that. Like, there's your story right there. Like, that's why you're watching this thing. That's where all the focus is. And then we have, like, look, I get where they're going for suspense.
I literally don't give a shit about if he may or may not have been a serial killer.
I'm a little interested in that, T, because that's really bad. But still, everything else still. The guy's already a monster.
No, but but that's what I'm saying. I think they do such a good job of building up everything else about him that, honestly, I think it's irrelevant.
Honestly, the problem is, it's not that we have competing plots. It's the fact we peaked early with the A plot.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I think you and I are pretty much simpatico about this one.
Yeah.
Okay, Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 1. Dragon, the more I hear about this, the less inclined I am to even watch it, honestly.
Okay, long story short, very mixed bag. Showrunners left the project, and it was kind of a sign that, Netflix may have had some agendas with the show.
Here's the thing. I respect them for trying to do some different stuff with it.
Yeah.
I just feel like the stuff that they did was very misguided.
Look,
from what I've heard of it.
Look, it's a good faith attempt versus whatever Shyamalan did. All right, that's fair. That's fair. At least someone made it.
You know what though? I'm a little bitter about the Shyamalan movie existing, just because it's always going to be like, well, it can't get worse than that. Like, we could literally have Zack Snyder directing Avatar, and it would be better than that.
The bending would look incredible if Snyder did. Of course, Ba Sing Se would be toppled and everyone would be dead, but still.
God.
No one would be held accountable for that, mind you, but anyway, we're just going to.
Oh God, Dragon, I'm sorry. I was going to make a joke about something that might happen to Jet that also happened to Batman in Snyder's sick head.
Oh, come on.
We'll just leave it at that.
Anyway, So look, this is what
I'm glad I stopped myself before it got out.
this is well cast, but the direction on the actors, you get a sense in places. With the exception of Daniel Day Kim, who's the standout, he's perfect in every way.
Honestly, once there's a compilation of like all of the Ozai scenes, I'll probably just watch that and be good.
So he really did impress us. He added some layers to Oza. He looked just like him. Admittedly, if the beard could have been like an inch longer, it would have been like completely flawless. But still, he's anyway. But yeah, so it's well cast. But you get a sense on the kids, particularly the direction could have been a little better. It feels like we got a lot of one takes out of the kid playing Aang. That's just me. But the other thing too is they didn't let him be as fun as he usually is. So because of that, he feels maybe a little like the best example is it feels like remember when Aang saw Code the Face Stealer in Avatar.
Yeah.
So imagine that, but that's kind of the performance all the way through. Like you can't show any emotion.
Did
I'm
Jon
not saying
Favreau direct this series?
Oh, not. Don't take it there. But here, look, really, it's the fact that they added angst in places it didn't need angst. Like Sokka's got daddy issues. We're burning people alive.
I mean, to be fair, Sokka did technically have daddy issues.
I know,
but it wasn't like written on his forehead.
That's the thing. Where yes, Rohit made a very when we did the full podcast, Rohit made a very good observation about that Sokka and Katara having parental issues, which yes, true, very 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 true, but still like, not blatantly like I don't believe in my son, and he overhears this. Like that's a little unsubtle,
Is that really? Oh God, that's bad.
I mean, look,
that's
he doesn't
bad,
literally say those words, but Sokka overhears his father pretty much saying, "I don't know if he's going to be able to do this," Like he could have gotten everyone killed. I mean, it just seemed like he just had like a bad performance on like the ice red. I don't think he's ever going to be able to lead. That's essentially what he said. Man, that's really harsh. So Boomy, the big everyone's gonna be talking about Boomy. Boomy again looks great. Good acting on that. The problem is he's less fun mind games like he was in Avatar. He's more intense.
He's straight up evil, from what I hear.
Not evil, but here's the thing: it feels like they were going in the direction if he's doing all this to teach him a lesson. But the way it's conveyed is that he forgot about the lesson. Aang had to bring him back from the brink, which is like that defeats the whole purpose of Boomy. Like he's actually going like that dark versus like seemingly evil. But no, he's his best pal from way back when.
Right.
So, look, my hopes for this were very simple, Tiki. I was going this hoping for like maybe like Avatar Kai, if you like Dragon Ball Z Kai. Essentially, like cut out we cut out some things we don't need. See if we can adapt this thing in live action in 8 episodes. That's all I really want from this thing. And I think it kind of missed the point in a few places. Has some good ideas for sure. Has some shining moments. Has some like again, it feeds into that curiosity of like what will your childhood animated shows look like in live action? Like we've all had that theory. Many times it crashes and burns, but occasionally works out. At the very least, you wonder what it would look like if a good faith effort were applied to. And visually, good faith effort applied. These are the outfits and the costume, and this is exactly what if you saw someone dressed like the characters from Avatar, this is exactly what they would look like.
Oh.
So it's painfully okay, which I know for you is the kiss of death, but it's painfully
That is the kiss of death. That is the kiss of death. Yes, I would rather it be a train wreck. I will honestly, in my lifetime, watch the Shyamalan movie more than this.
Imagine lipstick on a bazooka. That's.
All right. Next up, we got Batman Beyond Season 2. I'll be quick with this, but Dragon, I really enjoyed this season. Honestly, I thought that it was slow in some spots. There were maybe 1 or 2 sections where we got like 2 or 3 episodes in a row that were like, yeah, that was good, but not great. But I think it ended really strong, man. I think that last run of like 5 or 6 episodes might have been the best run in the show's history. I think they did a lot as far as establishing Max as a character and establishing like a little bit more of the world building. I think there were obviously some really big standout episodes. I'm excited to go into season 3, and I know season 3 is only 13 episodes. So Dragon, it feels surreal that our journey with the Batman animated series is seemingly coming to an end, unless we decide to like talk about the Batman or something.
Yeah. All right. That brings us to Twisted Metal.
Yeah, I'm surprised you got into this because it's not something I would think that would strike your fancy.
Do you know what sold me on it?
What did?
Well, the showrunners and writers on this, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, the Deadpool guys.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense that you would check
Yeah.
it out. That makes sense.
Also, I mean, honestly, it's that, but I really like it's really well cast. You have Anthony Mackie and Stephanie Beatrice. You know, they're in this. Also, Will Arnett. Will Arnett plays Sweet Tooth.
Oh my god! Oh,
So
I need to look
so
that
they
up.
have like a big physical guy, and the voice of Sweet Tooth is Will Arnett. He's hysterical.
That
And
sounds
Tiki, here's the biggest sell I have for this show right off the bat for you. Okay, here's the reason you have to watch the show.
Okay.
Okay, Sweet Tooth's backstory is it's very much the Nope origin.
Oh my god!
As in that
What?
flash, when we do Sweet Tooth's origin, I want to give you the ins and outs of it.
You
It's
mean
very
like the monkey thing?
yes.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
I want to be clear. There is no monkey, but it's something really.
But it's like the same sort of like idea where it's like a really horrific thing going down on the set.
Exactly.
Dragon, yeah, that gets me. Ooh, yeah, I'll have to check it out.
So anyways, this was a Peacock series. It's adapting the PlayStation game Twisted Metal. Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick did it. Basically, Anthony Mackie plays basically in this post-apocalyptic setting, very Mad Max-esque. You know,
Twisted Metal is by all intents and purposes, it's pretty much like just bootleg Mad Max.
Exactly, and it's a lot of fun. So basically, Anthony Mackie
Mad Max was a clown, and honestly, I could see George Miller putting a clown in Mad Max if he really wanted to.
Seriously, you're gonna love the show just on Sweet Tooth alone, Tiki. Episode 2, I think, is when Sweet Tooth really enters, and you're gonna love him.
Okay.
But so Anthony Mackie plays a milkman. Milkmans are the delivery guys in the apocalypse, and the whole thing with this world is like if you're in a city or behind like the wall of a city, like that's Nirvana, and you want to get there. So he's always on the road because it's like this post-apocalyptic thing of like on the road is like just where all the chaos is, but behind the walls is where like again it's utopia and like peace times, and you want to go there. So he's basically offered like, hey, do this job for me, basically pick up and bring this cargo back to me, and I'll let you come inside, which is a huge deal for him. And along the way, he meets Stephanie Beatrice, who plays a character called Quiet. Really good. Anyway, the other reason you should watch this show, Thomas Hayden Church is in. He plays the bad guy.
Oh, fucking sold.
He plays Agent Stone, who is kind of like he's a cop with an interesting backstory. Anyway, yeah, so this is a lot of fun. It has a big, honestly, it's like imagine if you cross Mad Max with Zombieland. That's kind of what it feels like. There's a lot of Zombieland in this. Maybe a little gratuitous in places, but again, I did not play the game. I assume a lot of that probably stems from it. I know Sweet Tooth's signature move comes from the game, which they do kind of by the finale. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
So currently, from what I understand, they are slated to do a season 2, so it should be coming back. And yeah, I mean, there's I do question certain places to go character wise, but it's it was a lot of fun. It's crazy as all get out, mind you, but it was quite fun.
All right, so Dragon, I've been slowly watching through Curb Your Enthusiasm. Curb season 1. Honestly, man, this was a lot better than I thought it would be. Honestly, coming out, I think it's honestly more fully formed than I was expecting. Like it doesn't have the the really long-term story arcs. It doesn't have the the really elaborate running gags that go on the whole season. But I do think by and large, I think the identity of the show is still there for the most part, and there is still some really, really entertaining stuff in it. I think the standout episode is clearly Porno Gil.
Yeah, Bob Odenkirk.
Not just for Bob Odenkirk, just because I feel like that whole episode is just a really great kind of like escalating series of bad circumstances. I gotta tell you, I wasn't huge on the finale where his ex-girlfriend comes into the picture and there's the whole the survivors of incest support group. I was not huge on that episode. I thought it was a weak finale.
Like I said, season 1, we're not quite there yet with the finales.
Yeah. I did like how they did stuff like the bracelet was kind of like a running thing on the episode, as well as Larry gets I got in a fight with Richard Lewis. and that kind of has like physical ramifications on him for like 2 or 3 episodes.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely an interesting kind of like jumping off point for sure. And also just to see how young everybody looks. Jeff Garland has a fucking baby face in this season, and it's weird. Does he? Doesn't he?
He does.
It's odd.
You know, it's crazy.
How young he looks.
Jeff Garland had a stroke right before the first season of Curb.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, shit, man. In light of those circumstances, I think he looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I really do like. I honestly think one of the good things about watching this season is that I got to see the Cheryl and Larry's dynamic from the ground level, which honestly, Sherry and Laryl.
Oh
Jesus
my God.
Christ. Sherry and Laryl. Wow.
Sherry and Laryl.
I mean, that's the shipping name for you, right? Okay, but by all intents and purposes, when I saw Cheryl the first season that I watched Curb Dragon, I didn't really get what their dynamic was really supposed to be. I didn't really get why she would be interested in this guy at all. But here's the thing. I think from everything that we've seen in season 1, I think they do a really good job of setting up why these two people do work well together. And I think there's a lot of good comic timing between the two of them. So yeah, that was one really valuable element of going back to watching the first season for me. So overall, fun time, and I'm definitely on board to binge the whole thing eventually. That's my goal. All right.
All right, let me tell you about Rewind the 90s. So, long story short, National Geographic's on Disney Plus, they did basically their version of I Love the 90s from VH1. Just less saucy.
Right.
But
right.
again, it's fun. Look, it is a throwback, though. It's like, man, I miss VH1, the whole I Love the Decades thing they did. But it's fun reflections on the 90s. It's a comfort watch, unequivocally. They even got Luis Guzman.
Nice.
You got the goose.
God.
I will say this. Okay, so the big reason I watch this, I'm upset about this though. Okay, one of the big reasons I checked this out, like the big eye-catching thing, they have this little. If you go on Disney Plus, you see Rewind the 90s, like the big bannery image they have for it. Like when you click on it, you see all the episodes listed out. Toy Story toys, the 95 models of the Toy Story gang in toy form. To my recollection, does not appear once.
Oh man, I remember those toys, dude. Oh man,
I still have those toys, man.
I'm sure you do.
Anyway, so they cover like a wide variety of topics, like reality TV, the whole I, Tonya thing, Y2K, comedy, and stuff like that. So again, it was and the early, the internet, and the old cell phones. Like it's a fun throwback. We're 90s kids. It's fun.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll definitely watch it eventually when I need a comfort watch. I'm literally kind of saving it for a rainy day. That's kind of my attitude with it.
There you go.
Okay. Finally for me, we have Curb season 6, and this is a masterpiece of a season. I mean, Dragon, this season was just firing on all fucking cylinders, man. Yeah, the Ida Funkhauser Roadside Memorial, just all-time great episode. We've already talked about that off air. Just seriously, like there's a run of like 3 or 4 episodes in a row in this season where I just think they're just some of the all-time best Curb episodes I've ever seen. I don't even know, man. I really think this season was kind of like the peak of Curb in some ways, where it's like they're just really firing on all cylinders. They got the running gags down, but I kind of feel like they're not as reserved and restrained as they can tend to be in some of the later seasons, where they're almost kind of reeling back a little bit. Like they're going all out with stuff this season. It's unfiltered. It's wild. It's just the sense of escalation on all the situations is just really, really palatable. I had a ball with it, man. And of course, the introduction to Leon, and Leon is just like a totally just Dragon. I couldn't imagine the show without Leon in the second half. Honestly, like I feel like he came in at like the perfect timing to really jumpstart the show's energy again. So I think it was just such a valuable addition to the cast.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right, let me tell you about For All Mankind. So I got caught up. I watched all 4 seasons. It's an Apple TV show. Great what if premise on this. Basically, this is what if the Russians beat us to the moon.
Ooh.
It's a bit of, I'll admit. Here's the thing: if you ever do happen to watch it, it's a really good show. It did live up to the hype, indeed. Bit of a slow start. So when I'm watching that first episode, I'm wondering, oh man, was it overhyped? But after you get past that first episode, that's when it picks up. That's when it picks up. Like you get into the whole like the ripple effect of like, okay, so if the Russians did beat us, that would be egg on our face, and we're going to be trying all the publicity PR moves that we can outclass the Russians, which is we're going to put women in space.
Oh God.
It's like Nixon. Like I think they call them Nixon's ladies or Nixon's women.
Okay.
Anyway, so again, there's like a lot of alternate history kind of, again, a lot of really interesting little subtle alternate history kind of things that you never really think of. They're like a lot of fun here. Like, yeah, if we didn't do that, then this would probably have happened.
Right.
Here's the thing, you're gonna love it. There are a lot of time jumps in this show because again, it takes time.
I love me a good time jump, Dragon. I'm a sucker for a good time jump.
The launch doesn't happen overnight, so it takes a lot of time to get ready for each launch. So basically, season 1 is we're going to the moon after the Russians have beat us there. You have Joel Kim, and he's the main guy. Honestly, Tiki, this is the best thing I've ever seen Joel Kim in. I think he gives like a flawless performance. Here's his finest performance. It's a great job. There's this one episode in season 1 you have to watch. It's called Hi Bob. Now, Hi Bob is basically they're kind of having cabin fever on the space station. They're having cabin fever on the moon. And basically, they've been given tapes to watch while they're in space, and they're all Bob Newhart. Basically 6 episodes of the Bob Newhart show, which they've memorized, and they keep like reciting it in space, and they greet each other like "Hi, Bob," and it gets dark. That's what I'm saying. Basically, it's kind of starts. Hi, Bob is kind of like a psychodrama episode with one of the characters, Gordo. It's like Gordo, Ed, and Poole. Ed Bolin being the Joel Kim character. Anyway, there's a shocking twist that happens in the first season where Ed's in space and something really bad happens with his family down on the planet. So he's off-world for that. But yeah, so broad strokes, season 1, we're going to the moon. Season 2, again, so that's in the 70s. Because, again, we missed 69. Season 2, we're in the 80s during the Cold War. But again, the Cold War, very different circumstances with the Russians. Andrew Stanton directed a couple episodes starting in season 2. And the big one.
Seems like the type of thing that he'd be into.
Here's the thing.
Wally-esque.
Andrew Stanton, one of the episodes, it's called Rules of Engagement. He directed a scene in this episode. Directed the whole thing, obviously. But he got such a great performance out of this one scene where Joel Kinnaman and his family have this argument, and it's such a well-directed argument, like one of the best directed arguments you've ever seen. Familial drama. It's gobsmackingly wonderful. Okay, let's see. So again, basically, they're kind of there's like a reluctant team up between the Russians and the Americans with Soyuz Apollo. And it ends kind of disastrously. All the finales for the seasons are usually amazing, by the way. Season 2 has the most impressive finale. Like there's a big we got to save the day, and time is like the clock is ticking. It's very stunning how they get out of Dodge in season 2. Season 3, it's in the 90s. We're going to Mars, and there are hotels in space.
God.
But in a believable way. I'm not just like it's not super sci-fi, but it's like realistically, if we had like achieved like the success that we're achieving in this show, this is where we're possibly going. And so season 4, okay, lastly, season 4, admittedly the lesser of the 4 seasons. I won't lie to you. It's the lesser of the 4 seasons because basically the plot is NASA's gone corporate. It's like, okay, we're at a place where now we can send people into space. This is like in the 2000s. Like each season's like a decade in the future, essentially. So it's like the Joel Kinnaman character, right? Baldwin's like he's now a grandpa, but he's got issues like returning home. So he's very much like he's dedicating himself to the mission, sending people to space. It's not like the big to do it was like when we sent the astronauts into space. Now it's like a willy-nilly people signing up for Amazon, essentially, like working at Amazon. Since when we send them to space. And like we're trying to mine an asteroid. The point being, I'm not probably doing the greatest job selling in the latter parts of this, but seriously, the show in premise is really good. Right now, I think it's like now a lacking of Ted Lasso era we are with Apple right now. I'd say this is like the crown jewel what they got there. This is really solid stuff. Next to the Peanuts, obviously. Peanuts is the top tier thing they're doing on Apple right now.
I still need to check out the big thing on Apple that I need to check out is
Severance.
Oh, yeah, Severance. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like I said, for all mankind, everyone kept praising, and I saw it. And yeah, it's worthy of the praise. It's pretty good.
Nice. Okay. So last up, we got some catch up. Kogias is asking if we plan on doing a DCEU ranking now that it's all wrapped up. Dragon, I'd be down for that. What do you think?
Oh, we could.
We'd probably just have to find like the right time to do it, to tie it into something. But
yeah,
I'd be into it. I mean, here's the thing, though. I feel like. Yes, I feel like my opinion on the DCU is obviously going to be different from yours. For me, there might be like maybe 2 movies in that cinematic universe that go above a 6 out of 10 for me. So, yeah. But I am a sucker for rankings, so I will keep it in mind. All right. So let's get into some catch-up, Dragon.
All right. Hold the mustard.
All right, Blazing Saddles, we did a whole podcast on it. Not really going to spend a lot of time on it, but it blew me away. It the comedy is legitimately timeless and also very provocative and very bold and just all around hilarious. Just the cast all the way around is great. We got the 72-ounce steak out of the conversation.
All the scenery. I want all the fixings on my scenery.
Oh my god. So yeah, it's a masterpiece through and through. It's probably one of the all-time great comedy movies.
Yep. All right.
Mystery
movie numero uno. The Holdovers.
Okay. I feel like this would go either way. I feel like you could really like it, or you could probably think it's a little overrated.
So I finally got around to this because they put it on Peacock, and I've been meaning to get to it, but there were distractions.
It's not like they could have put it on Peacock around the holiday season or anything. That would have probably made it a little bit better of a watch.
True, or at the very least, they could have advertised it if it were there around the holidays. I honestly can't remember. I think it was added in January, but I could be wrong.
That's just a legitimately dumb time to release a Christmas movie.
I don't get it. Anyway, it did not disappoint. I gotta be honest. I think this Oppenheimer should get the Oscar. I really like The Holdover.
Okay. I'm glad you're on board with it. Yeah.
I mean, look this way. I mean, I really like Oppenheimer. I would like Oppenheimer to win for personal reasons, but again, if it lost to The Holdovers, it's good competition.
Nice. Giamatti's great. I'm honestly rooting for Giamatti over Cillian Murphy, although I think both of them winning would be good.
Yeah.
I feel like Giamatti's got a better chance to win for actor than the movie does for picture.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, this is a nice understated character piece. It's a nice Christmas movie. I'll give it much. I like the I like dispensing with the adversarial relationship right off the top. Like the moment the arm gets popped out, it's like, okay, then they're going to be bonded together for the rest of this film. Like I like that we just kind of like we had that salient moments to bring us to these 3 characters kind of stuck together.
Right.
So that's great. Again, one of my favorite moments is Giamatti standing up for the Miss Lamb character, like after she's lost her son, like at the table with like some of the
Oh yeah, that is like one of the big scenes for sure. I know what you're talking about.
There's just great honesty in this movie. I mean, Tully, the scene with Tully's father too, him having like a mental condition and likely being hidden away versus helped to being with the rich mother, like the rich mother of Tully. She's probably just like hiding the mentally ill father away. It's really tough stuff.
Sure.
In places there, but I gotta tell you, man, Alexander Payne, he's got style. Because you have Election, you have About Schmidt, you got Nebraska. These are 3 films along.
Sideways,
and very clear.
Sideways.
I know. I'm aware of Sideways.
I'm sorry.
I was going for a point.
All right. Well, Sideways is stylistic, Dragon. I don't know
know
what to
it's.
do. All right, I'm sorry.
Okay, I meant like the understated kind of cat. Never mind.
Yeah, that's Sideways.
I know it's sideways. Okay,
All
maybe he wants to be known for something besides sideways. You ever think about that?
No, he won't, because Sideways is his masterpiece. And honestly, as much as I like his other movies, I feel like nothing else comes close to Sideways. Not
I'm
even
just
this, but
saying
that's just me.
something like About Schmidt. It just feels very much in tune with this movie. Okay, it's all I'm
All right,
saying.
fair enough.
We have like the road movie with Nebraska. We have About Schmidt just being kind of like one character like the
Sideways is totally not a road movie.
Oh, come on!
All right. Okay, I'm done.
I wanted to be the one guy who's not going to sight sideways. Happy?
There's a reason why, like I said, there's a reason why his Sideways is the movie that always comes up with him. Anyways. Okay. Let's see. What's up next for me? We have The Teacher's Lounge. Okay, this is this is the German Best International Film nominee. And it's another banger, Dragon. It's another banger. Essentially, the premise of this is that there's a new teacher at this school who's very popular with the students. She's a young teacher. She's, very outgoing, very friendly. A lot of the older teachers are, kind of a little bit more strict and set in her ways. So she's popular with the kids because of that. But a turning point comes when she discovers that the school receptionist has been stealing money from the teacher's lounge. Basically like pickpocketing people's jackets and wallets and stuff when they're not around. And basically the movie turns into the kid, the receptionist's child, the receptionist's son, is one of the more popular kids in the class, and he basically turns the entire class against this teacher because she was the one that ultimately threw the hammer down on his mother. And Dragon, the movie, is just a really great, white-knuckle, genuinely suspenseful power struggle between the student and the teacher for control of the classroom. And it's played completely straight. It's great, Dragon. I really, really liked it a lot. And also, there's a little bit of ambiguity over the actual method of how the teacher discovered the pickpocket, which is that she essentially set up a hidden camera without the consent of any of the other teachers. She just really wanted to get to the bottom of the issue, which is obviously a big thing unto itself. And it's one of those things that legally it's almost a little bit ambiguous whether or not it would even go through if they brought it to court. And then there's also the fact that you don't even fully see the face of the person who's doing it in the video. You just see their shirt, but their shirt matches the shirt that the receptionist was wearing during that day. So you assume it's her, but you don't know 100%. So really, I feel like this movie and Anatomy of a Fall have a lot of things in common when it comes to that sort of like dancing around with the ambiguity of it all. And I think it's really interesting that Anatomy of a Fall probably would have been the German nomination, but I'm guessing the reason why it wasn't is because some of Anatomy of a Fall takes place in French and English as well as German, and this is just all German for the most part. There's a little bit of language barrier stuff when it comes to some of the students and their interactions, but I digress. Drake, I honestly, out of all the best international film nominees this year, I think this is the one for you that I think I would actively seek out. It's basically like a dramatized version of like Hey Arnold or Recess, as far as like the power struggle between the student and the teachers. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I hope I'm selling you on this because I really liked it a lot. Probably not the best movie that I've seen this month, but up there for sure. All right. Mystery movie number 2.
Priscilla.
Okay. All right.
I threw you off the scent last time when you.
Yeah, you did. You did.
That's the thing. I didn't want to just say yes. I wanted to keep you guessing.
Fair enough.
Yes, so this is based on Sofia Coppola's Priscilla Presley biopic. Personally, I didn't care for it.
Ah,
I
you're
see what it
killing
was
me.
go. I
You're
see what it
killing
was.
me.
I see what it was going for. I don't know. It just felt kind of wrong, man.
Okay, what do you think of a Lordy?
You mean the actress portraying Priscilla?
No, Jacob Elordi, who's playing
Oh,
Elvis.
oh, sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. I thought I thought he did a good job. I thought like he looks the part, and
I
I don't
think
know. I
they did
think
a really good job with his character where you're right, Dragon. There is obviously an icky quality to this story, and it does feel wrong in certain places for sure. But I think the writing and the acting, especially, did a good job of like. I feel like a Lordy plays into kind of like the infantilized nature of how Elvis was, where he was so connected by inner circle people that he didn't really know how to be a normal person himself. You know what I mean? And I feel like the movie does a really good job of illustrating that.
well, this is where I kind of diverge here. I don't know. I think the portrayal of Elvis was. I get what they're going for, but I still think the end result's a little too negative and a little one sided. It's kind of what it feels like. I mean, here's the thing. I like the idea of like, okay, so yes, there was an age discrepancy clearly with Elvis and Priscilla for sure. Yes, and I do see like I just feels like there's material in there we didn't really mind, and what we did mind, it just felt like we just I may pay lip service to like the whole thing with like, okay, so how does we have the age difference? Every woman wanting your husband, like that's a place to run with, and yet we bring up Anne Margaret like one time. We don't really see like, how's it like going on tour with Elvis with all this going on? It just seems like, oh, stay at home, Priscilla, stay at home. It's constantly stay at home, Priscilla. We're not really getting a movie there. It feels like we have a budget and we can't go anywhere. That's what it feels
I
like.
will say that I like the first half better than the second act. I will say that. I think once we get to Graceland, the movie's pace does kind of slow down a lot. I will agree with you there.
I mean, that's the thing, Tiki. This movie is a lot of slow meandering moments in this movie for me. It's like, what's Priscilla up to now? It's just, well, she's going shopping.
Not
She's,
much.
that's what I'm. It's just there's a lot of those moments where I mean, like for example, like Elvis, like there are moments I liked. I kind of liked, and I kind of saw some potential there. Like, okay, you're keen, like, hey, you should dye your hair. I'm going to teach you how to shoot this gun. Like, okay, these are kind of like moments of like Elvis, relating to Priscilla, and like moments like that where like, hey, we're like the welcome, like come into my world a little bit here. Like I don't know, something there just felt. I don't know. It just felt kind of wrong to me that we
Do
kind of
you agree with
portrayed
me that
him.
the first act was probably the strongest?
I think so, but I think as it went on after Act One, it does feel like we just kind of ran out of like places to go. If we're not going to go really into the ins and outs of their marriage, it just feels like it's Elvis saying I'm filming movies, which is not really the case. He not really film movies all that often. He did movies. Don't get me wrong, he did. But I mean,
I don't know about that, Dragon. He did a lot of movies, man.
well, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Yes, I know he did a
I mean,
lot of movies, but
from what it looked like to me, it looked like he was pretty much constantly filming
no,
stuff.
no, no. I know he was. Sorry, Dale. I know he was filming stuff, but I mean, we didn't really get into like the later eras of Elvis in terms of we didn't really jump to the end a little there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even
Okay.
with the
Well,
movie.
we'll just have to agree to disagree, but I do agree with you on certain parts. I agree with you that the first half was better than the second half. So it is what it
Um,
is.
I want to be very clear. This is a well look. I think, with the exception of the slow moments, I think it's a well-made movie. But I think it's more of a taste thing. I just think I don't know. Like I kind of I looked in the movie a little bit. I did see a little bit of I believe it was Lisa Marie before. Like she was nonplussed about the movie. And I kind of see where she's coming from a little bit.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'll say that much. But again, it's not a bad movie. It's just I don't know. I was just not wasn't crazy about it.
Okay. Next up for me, we have this is gonna go by really fast. Ruby Gilman. Look, Dragon. At the end of the day, I feel bad for this movie. I really do. I feel like there's a couple things that were really working against it. Honestly, by and large, it doesn't really feel like a ripoff of Turning Red as much as you would expect, because I think that they focus a lot less on the dynamic between the mother. If anything, the mother's pretty supportive. It's obviously the grandmother is kind of the villain in this thing. But I also I kind of feel like, ironically enough, I feel like the world building in this movie is kind of like a mix of Luca and Turning Red. And honestly, the vibe of this movie is more Luca than Turning Red, believe it or not, because it's got a big emphasis on like the townspeople are like very superstitious about sea monsters and stuff like that. I like this movie just fine. Is it one of DreamWorks' best? Absolutely not. Is it one of DreamWorks' worst? Even more emphatically, absolutely not. I think it's a solid 7 out of 10 movie. It's got some fun characters. It's got some really good animated sequences. I really like the colors. I really like the world design. The story's very generic, but again, it's not quite as generic as you would think based on the trailers. I do think that it takes some interesting twists and turns here and there. It's not just a completely cardboard cutout story. There's nothing really spectacular about it, but it's still, I think it's still pretty solid. Like, I would definitely put it above the Trolls movies. I would definitely put it above the Boss Baby movies. Obviously trash like Turbo and Home and stuff like that. Like, I'd say I would even put it above something like Abominable, which I didn't really like that much. I think it's very solid. I think it's probably like a notch below stuff like obviously the Shrek movies besides Shrek 3 or or How to Train Your Dragon or Kung Fu Panda or Puss in Boots or any of that. The big dogs, it's not up there. But it's still solid enough in its own right. And I kind of feel like the movie got a bad shake because of just the situation that it found itself in when it was released. So would I recommend it? Honestly, not really, because it's just kind of like I don't want to call it disposable, but it's kind of a filler DreamWorks movie, but it is, for what it is, I enjoyed it enough. All right. Anime fan says Priscilla is the new old dads for you when it comes to feeling differently about a film. Possibly. I mean, I just don't think the argument was as entertaining as the old dads argument. It's also saying Ruby Gilman's one of my favorite DreamWorks films. It's very cute and beautifully animated. No, that's the thing. The animation. Here's the thing. I really like what they do with the rubber hose look of the character designs. I honestly think that is one of the elements. People complain about the character designs and think they look ugly, but I think they're just stylistic choices. And honestly, when I see them in action, in actual sequences and stuff, I think the rubber hose stuff looks really good. Honestly, it's very animated. It's very cartoony, but in a fun way. So, yeah, like I said, saw a little 6 out of 10. But there's nothing wrong with a 6 out of 10 per se. I think it's just good enough. All right, next up for you, Dragon.
It could happen to you.
All right, what in God's name is this?
Oh yeah, this is actually serendipitous. Actually, this was directed by the original writer. So before Mel Brooks took it over, this is by the original writer of Blazing Saddles, the guy who pitched it to Mel Brooks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, So the guy also went on to direct the Freshman, the movie The Freshman with Marlon Brando and Matthew Broderick. So this is a feel good rom com. It was on Netflix. It was a treat, man. Nick Cage is in it. He plays a charming cop. Essentially, the premise is real cutesy. It's got a nice meet cute, like a good cushy, like a nice tenderized meet cute, if you will. Basically, this cop, like an honest cop, he tips a waitress his lottery ticket, like in lieu of a tip, because oh man, I don't have cash, and I got called out, on an emergency call. You're holding the lottery ticket. I'll give you the tip money tomorrow. If I don't, if it wins, I'll split the money with you. Guess what? Wins, and he splits the money with her, and it's delicious. Bridget Fonda plays the waitress, and the media is having a frenzy of like the cop and the waitress. He's married to Rosie Perez, who's essentially the bad guy of the movie. Nick Cage is so delightful in this movie. He's got great chemistry with Bridget Fonda. Tucci's in it as like a scumbag ex-husband to the Bridget Fonda character. It's got a real feel-good ending. This is such a cozy watch, man. It's a cozy comfort watch for you.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was refreshing. It was nice.
All right. Well, you know what isn't a cozy comfort watch, Dragon?
Tiki, what isn't a cozy comfort watch?
The killing of two lovers. Here's the only reason why I even watched this movie. It's because the film company Neon Pictures, Dragon, they are slowly kind of raising in the ranks, and they are becoming sort of A24 like in the way that like I'm really catching like the films that they are doing are really catching my attention. This is part of their lineup. I figured I'd give it a chance. It sounded kind of interesting. And honestly, I kind of hated it. So the general premise is basically it's supposed to be like a thriller slash drama about a man who's kind of losing it over his ex-wife getting with another man, and kind of like, you know, he's mentally losing it and he's going off the deep end because of it, right? The problem is that the trailer really advertises it as like a white knuckle, like, oh my god, this guy is going to go off the deep end. He's going to do some dangerous shit. Like this is going to be a really white knuckle movie. It is not. It is not at all, Dragon. I honestly felt bait and switched when I saw this movie. By and large, this movie is just about the couple trying to work through the relationship, the man like trying to to get it together. Ultimately he fails. Ultimately she does get with this new guy, and ultimately it does break out in a fight that does get kind of violent. But that's literally like the very end of the movie is the fight. Like it's all build up. It's literally all build up. And there's no sense of escalation. I don't know, man. I did not care for this one. It felt very artsy fartsy. It felt very much like, oh, well, we're not going to be like other movies like this. You know, it had that kind of vibe. I don't know, man. It was honestly kind of tough for me to get through. It's a shame. I like, it has a really good trailer. Like seriously, like look up this trailer and tell me it doesn't look interesting. The trailer really captivated me. I was stoked to watch it, and when I did, I was let down, to say the least. Granted, I don't think it's like a terrible movie. I think the acting's decent. I think the directing's decent. Like all around, it's fine. It's just I felt very false advertised to. If I would have gone in thinking it was more of a drama, it was more of a drama about a man that was trying to keep his family together, which is what the movie by and large is, I probably would have responded to it more. But between the title and the fact that the trailer literally sells you on like, this is a white knuckle thriller about a man who's losing it because he lost his wife. And what's he going to do? He's going to go off the deep end. He really doesn't. Not really. So, yeah, pretty big letdown for me. All right. Last one for you, Dragon.
Marlowe.
All right. Does this by any chance have anything to do with Heart of Darkness?
No.
Okay. I just asked because that's the main character in Heart of Darkness.
Well, no.
Okay. Anyways.
Yeah, so I believe this was Liam Neeson's 100th film, actually.
Ooh,
I have that right. I believe that was the big deal when this thing came out there, but it always stuck in my mind. Like, one, I'm more interested because basically it's Liam Neeson playing the great detective Philip Marlowe. You know, like the classic film noir, like, like the 40s detective, like the old school, like, and then she walked in my office. Like,
I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard of that character. Yeah.
Hey, you remember the Packard instead of Hey Arnold? Like, she calls him Marlowe. That's the reference.
Is Marlowe the guy, the character in Maltese Falcon? Is that a Marlowe movie?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Now you got me second guessing it. I don't think it was Marlowe, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was supposed to be Marlowe. I never thought what they were adapting with Maltese Falcon, aside from all the anyway. But yeah. So based on famous detective Philip Marlowe, Neeson is great in this movie. I just love him in like a 40s detective setting. Unfortunately,
no, Maltese Falcon was Sam Spade. I should have known that.
I shouldn't have let you get in my head. Should have known that. Anyway, so Neeson's great in this movie. You see him in the '40s detective setting. Unfortunately, it's real boring in places. I'm not
Oh
gonna
no!
lie.
Oh
That's the
god,
thing. But it's like when Neeson's on
Dragon.
screen,
I
he's
feel
really
like we have a theme with our final movies.
Mhm. Yeah, the plot's not great, but it's got a. Here's the thing: it's really good seeing Marlowe. This is really cathartic seeing Marlowe take out guys and like the old school like he's like this rough and tumble detective like taking like fighting these guys and we know Liam Neeson can punch people out.
Uh-huh.
To see him get out of Dodge, like that's cool. The guy who played Killer Croc in Suicide Squad plays essentially I believe in the novels and the detective books and everything. Marlowe. I don't know how recurring this guy was, but he had a sidekick named Cedric, and we see that guy in this movie. And he's really good. So yeah, it's not a lot going on here, but it's just like, hey, Neeson's playing the detective for his 100th movie. If you're going to give anyone this role, it should be him. I just wish the script were more entertaining.
Yeah, it sounds like a movie I'm never gonna watch.
No, I'm aware. I got it. But, it was a nice dream though.
Oh god.
One could say, Tiki, it's the stuff dreams are made of.
All right, fair enough. Also, Dragon, you don't have this listed, but I'll go over it really quickly. I am actually getting ready for a Vegas trip, and one of the big events of said Vegas trip is going to be going to see Carrot Top. I've got front row center tickets.
Yeah, sorry.
Carrot Top.
I meant to put that on there.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We'll just do it last. So yeah, Dragon. I had to, I'm stoked for it. I'm not honestly. I haven't really followed his career that closely. The most I know him from is the Comedy Central roast of Carrot Top. But the dude's an icon, and I respect his work. So I'm excited to see him live. Anyways, I watched Chairman of the Board, which is his one and only feature film starring vehicle. And Dragon, I gotta tell you, this is not a great movie by any means. It's a very dumb movie, but I had a good time with it. I really did. I thought, I really think that the thing that I liked about this movie is it basically feels like a slightly more mature, adult in the sense of adult animation is adult. It's dumb, but it's a little bit more edgy version of the 90s Nickelodeon aesthetic. And I really like that about it. I honestly think the Nickelodeon stuff is kind of all over this movie. And I'm kind of surprised that Carrot Top, I know that he was a panelist on Figure It Out for a season or two, but that's pretty much all he did with Nickelodeon as far as I could tell. And honestly, I'm really surprised about that because I feel like not only do you have the obvious tie-in with the orange hair and the Nickelodeon orange, that just kind of writes itself, but also I just find his prop humor to just be very Nickelodeon-esque. So yeah, this movie's dumb as fuck, and the villain side plot is pretty much exactly the Flintstones movie. But I had fun with it regardless. I really did. It was mostly just an opportunity to chain a bunch of Carrot Top sight gags together. But you know what? For it being pretty much just that, I think I had a fun time. It's not I would say I think Carrot Top is kind of the Weird Al of stand-up comedy. And it's no UHF. I'll give it that much. It is no UHF. UHF is a classic. This is not a classic by all means. But it's, for being what it is, it's very much a time capsule movie for me. It felt like a blast from the past. It felt like I was watching Nickelodeon again, even though it's not a Nickelodeon movie. So, yeah, for what it was, I had a fun time with it, and it definitely got me in the mood to see the man live, for sure.
I heard
What? Sorry?
I heard Carrot Top's in really good shape.
Yeah, he is. He was really into bodybuilding for a while, so yeah.
Crazy, right?
Right? Yeah.
Now, do you think he had outlandish props for the workout equipment?
Oh my god! I would love that.
Do you think they're a crazy straw, kind of weight? This is my shaking weight.
Oh my god, dude! Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah,
Okay. Best and worst, Dragon. What do you got?
Let's see. Worse. I mean, you know, I think objectively, I kind of have to say Marlowe is probably the worst. It pains me to say because I like Liam Neeson, but it's either that or Priscilla, and I don't want to be mean to Priscilla. Best, I'm gonna say, as I'm looking at it now, I really did have slim pickings. So I'm gonna say, best be holdovers.
Slim pickings.
That's what I was. That's exactly what I was saying. That's why I said that. But no. Easily the best one's the holdovers.
Oh yeah, great, awesome. Okay, for me, I'm gonna go worst. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Dragon. I'm gonna go The Killing of Two Lovers, not because I think it's like a terrible movie by any means, but from what I was advertised compared to what I got, it definitely threw me for a loop for sure. And honestly, by and large, I think this was a really good month for movies. I mean, the only other one I could think of for worst is Lover, Stalker, Killer, but that's more of just like an ethics thing for me, more so than it actively being a bad product. So, yeah, it's between those two, but I'll give the edge to Killing of Two Lovers just because it's I just can't see Killing of Two Lovers appealing to many people at all, whereas I can see the appeal of Lover, Stalker, Killer if you are super into true crime and don't really care about the ethics of it. Best, man, I mean, if we're talking, like, honestly, I would say pretty much Blazing Saddles by default, like, just because Blazing Saddles is just obviously, like, it's almost like a Mount Rushmore movie for me. But I do want to give a special shout out to both The Teacher's Lounge and Perfect Days, because really seeing those two both in theaters was like a great 1-2 punch of like, man, these Best International Feature Oscars are really these nominees are really good this year. So yeah, special shout out to both of them. Like I said, Dragon, I think Perfect Days definitely affected me more, but The Teacher's Lounge is the one that I think is more digestible and accessible. So yeah. Okay, Anime Fan says, is it just me or does Carrot Top look and sound like Richard Simmons? Richard Simmons? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
No, for
Nowadays,
sure.
if you see recent pictures of him, I can see it.
Wouldn't it be wonderful? I know the ages would never match up on this, but imagine if like Carrot Top were the long lost son of Richard Simmons.
Well, you're right, Dragon. The ages would not match up with that.
But isn't it kind of like a lovely thought, though? Just imagine that reunion.
Oh my god, Papa. Oh, god. Okay. No. Kogias, I definitely didn't see Madam Web. I'm kind of surprised that Dragon didn't see Madam Web, but hey, man, you got to draw the line somewhere, and I respect you for drawing that line.
If we don't, they're not going to learn. Right? That's the thing. Like Craven and Madam Web are not getting my business.
That's fair. I might see Craven just for the pure curiosity factor.
No,
I am a fan of the character, Dragon. I am a fan of the character.
You're feeding the machine, Tiki. Don't say Craven.
All right. God. Okay. Well, I think that's about it. Well, folks, obviously, big thanks to Kogias and Little Blue for joining us in the comments, as always, as well as Keeper Colby, of course. Well, folks, we've waxed on long enough, and it's time to put the pen down. Until next time, when we return for another fitting chapter in our Movie Memoirs. Give me all the scenery, boys. Pass on the bread. I'm filling up with steak.
Now don't get stingy.